Chapter 1096. Fragments of a Saint-tier battle skill killing a 9th heavenly layer Saint King was like nothing to Rui Jin. He did not even glance at the squash former Yama a second time. Instead, he turned around to look at the bloodied Jianchen and asked, "Jianchen, are you fine?" Jianchen sucked in a deep breath and slowly calmed himself down. Rui Jin's supreme strength that slaughtered a 9th heavenly layer Saint King deeply shocked Jianchen. The 9th heavenly layer stood at the very apex of Saint King. It still possessed some difference from great perfection, but this difference was tiny. Yet the difference had become so extreme when it involved Rui Jin, becoming as wide as a chasm. A 9th heavenly layer Saint King could not resist Rui Jin. They could not even injure him. Jianchen shook his head. "I thank Senior Rui Jin for your concern. I still can support myself." Jianchen's voice was a little weak. His injuries from the battle against the spectral elder did not affect him much. On the other hand, the palm strike from the former Yama had heavily wounded him. If it were not for his chaotic body, he would have collapsed long ago. Bai Dao flew over to Jianchen's side. Hong Lian's pearl had blocked off Rui Jin's earth-shaking roar for Bai Dao. After all, the pearl could defend against all soul attacks, which was why he remained unaffected. "Xiangtian, now that the Yama Hall has been devastated, the revenge of our Bai family is complete as well. This is all because of you. You're very heavily injured right now, so you should go recover quickly, just in case it leaves behind any future problems." Concern filled Bai Dao's voice. Although Jianchen's strength left him deeply astounded, right now was obviously not the time for them to catch up. Jianchen nodded. Then, he ordered the 5 saint rulers, who had just woken up, to clean up the battlefield. Afterward, he entered the artifact space, while Rui Jin and the other 2 watched over the saint artifact. Covered in blood, Jianchen sat in the center of a room, within a well-adorned hall of the palace. He completely bathed in extremely dense origin energy of radiant saint force, which allowed his wounds to quickly recover. The white-robed artifact spirit stood silently by Jianchen's side. He controlled the radiant saint force origin energy, as it continuously entered Jianchen's body. Coupled with the recovery of his chaotic body, Jianchen's severe wounds started to vanish at an unbelievable rate. Jianchen did not use his own radiant saint force origin energy. When he initially broke through to Class 7, he did not manage to fuse a lot of the origin energy into his soul, so this origin energy was a consumable. Every strand would disappear after he used it. It would be even more difficult to replenish than chaotic force. He needed his current radiant saint force origin energy to form a foundation, so that he could reach Class 8 in the future. On the Tianyuan continent, the abilities of every single radiant saint master was inborn. It would be decided as soon as they were conceived, so it was impossible to become a radiant saint master after birth. As a result, it was much easier for radiant saint masters to undergo breakthroughs. All a Class 6 radiant saint master needed was to fuse some of the radiant saint force origin energy into his soul to reach Class 7. Breaking through to Class 8 only needed accumulation. One needed to use vast amounts of radiant saint force origin energy to increase the quality of their soul. That was the secret to reaching Class 8. However, there had only ever been one Class 8 radiant saint master in the ancient times. The world lacked radiant saint force origin energy, so it did not offer the conditions required for the birth of Class 8 radiant saint masters. However, Jianchen possessed the saint artifact that specially refined radiant saint force origin energy. He possessed an overwhelming advantage, so reaching Class 8 was only a matter of time for him. Jianchen fully recovered after 4 hours. He left the room after he changed into a set of clean clothes. Then, he asked the artifact spirit about the elite members of the Flame Mercenaries he had sent into the artifact space. "Master, they have constantly fought magical beasts, continuously increasing their experience in battle and their mastery over heaven-tier battle skills. A small portion of them have broken through to Heaven Saint Master now, while the rest are all Earth Saint Masters," reported the artifact spirit. Jianchen nodded in satisfaction. "They really are improving quite quickly. I haven't poured so many heavenly resources into them for nothing. Once they reach the peak of Heaven Saint Master, I'll send them to Mercenary City, and get Xiao Ling to assist them in breaking through to Saint Ruler. Artifact Spirit, remember that none of them are allowed to die in here. This one understands. But Master, even though the heavenly resources have improved their constitutions, merely a good constitution will not allow one to reach Saint Ruler. They need to have high levels of comprehension, and I've observed every single of them. I've discovered that almost all of them have no hope of reaching Saint Ruler. Their limit is Heaven, Saint Master, said the Artifact Spirit. You don't need to worry about this. There is a wondrous item in the sea realm called the Divine Water of the World. It possesses marvelous effects on the soul. Once consumed, it can make up for this aspect that they lack, Jianshan said confidently. He was extremely confident in regards to everything. This group of people had followed him the earliest out of everyone. They were also the same people who joined the Flame Mercenaries the earliest, so he poured everything he had into raising them. He wanted to develop them into the core power of the Flame Mercenaries. Jianshan could not help but grow excited when he thought about the fact that the Flame Mercenaries would have several dozen Saint Rulers as their core power in the future. Although the current Flame Mercenaries possessed enough people who could stand at the very top, it was far too lacking in terms of experts that belonged to the center, not too weak or strong. They were nowhere near ancient clans. However, this aspect could not be made up for in a short amount of time, and it needed to be accumulated over time. Boom! At this moment, a rumble shook up another hall nearby. A pressure that originated from the world permeated the surroundings. It was extremely powerful and heavy, as if a supreme lord had descended, which caused everything to submit to its rule. It could deeply shock anyone. Jianshan stood outside his own hall, as he stared deeply at the hall where the sound came from. He remained silent. Master, your friend is trying to alter the Saint Tier battle skill. He has tried things like this many times in the past few years, almost demolishing the hall several times. I ended up toughening his hall specially, the Artifact Spirit said as some helplessness filled his face. The Octoterra Emperor left behind this Saint Tier battle skill. Its might is far greater than battle skills that Saint Kings can create, so it won't be easy if newbies wants to alter a Saint Tier battle skill for members of the sea race, so that it suits magical beasts. However, he seems to have achieved some success now. I just wonder how much time he needs before he completes it truly, murmured Jianshan. Reminiscence filled his eyes. Newbies had already gone into seclusion for many years now, so he somewhat missed the times where they had fought and struggled for their lives together. Jianshan left the artifact space. When he appeared in the outside world again, Rui Jin's dragon's domain had already vanished. The surroundings had returned to their previous state, while the great banner of the Flame Mercenaries was firmly planted on the highest point of the ruined Divine Hall. It danced and moved about in the wind, signaling the victory of the Flame Mercenaries. The 5 Saint Rulers arrived before Jianshan and passed over a space ring. They said, "The after-battle cleanup is complete. All the space rings and treasures within the Divine Hall have been stored in there." As soon as Jianshan accepted the space ring, Rui Jin flew out from the ruins. He held 2 square, stone tablets that were a meter wide and long. As he arrived before Jianshan, he said, "Jianshan, look what this is." He directly flung the 2 pieces of stone toward Jianshan as he smiled. Jianshan caught the 2 tablets with a single hand, and his hand immediately sunk. The 2 tablets that were not very big were extraordinarily heavy, actually more heavy than gold. There were clear images distinctly carved into them, but it was incomplete. Jianshan raised the 2 tablets and carefully examined the images. Afterward, a gleam of light flashed through his eyes, and he immediately pulled out a similar stone tablet from his space ring. The 3 stone pieces were the same in both size and color, just that the carvings differed. "These are fragments of a Saint Tier battle skill," Jianshan exclaimed in surprise. The Saint Tier battle skill fragment in his possession was obtained when several kingdoms formed a coalition and attacked the Jessen Kingdom. He had found it in the treasury of the Qiangong Kingdom. Correct, these are fragments of a Saint Tier battle skill. It seems like it has been split into 6 pieces, Heiyu said indifferently. A Saint Tier battle skill may mean nothing to Jianshan, but it was much more than that to the Flame Mercenaries. Jianshan stowed the 3 fragments away before thanking Heiyu. Then he left with everyone else. Jianchun had already sent Bai Dao into the artifact space, so that he could properly recuperate. Hey, you personally ripped open a space gate to the Changyang clan in Lore City. After that, they left with Jianchun. The surroundings fell into a deathly silence once more with their departure. Only a large pile of corpses and a devastated divine hall stood there. A light breeze traveled through the place and blew the bloody smell everywhere. Only a bunch of ruins and corpses remained of the Yama Hall, which was one of the 3 great assassination organizations that had stood on the Tianyuan continent for over 100,000 years. Jianchun let the 5 saint rulers return to Flame City by themselves after they returned to the Changyang clan. Afterward, he paid a visit to Bai Yuntian's room all by himself. All he found was his mother sitting by her bed, as she sewed a piece of clothing lined with golden silk. "Mother," Jianchun called out. Although she was already more than 50 years old, Bai Yuntian still had the appearance of a lady in her 20s. Time left no mark on her face, but she did seem much more mature and much more dignified. Chapter 1097. Visiting Dragon Island once more. 1. Bai Yuntian's face immediately lit up with joy when she saw Jianchun stride through the doorway. Deep love filled her eyes as her hands stopped working. She stood up with the piece of clothing still in her hands and smiled. "Xiang are perfect. Try on this piece of clothing to see if it fits. I've sewn it according to your body shape after buying some supreme cloth from outside." Jianchun's heart warmed up from his mother's love. Outside, he was a cold expert who shook the continent and someone that various forces feared. But at home, he was an extremely obedient and filial child. "Mother, let's talk about this later. I have something much more important," Jianchun said. Afterward, a streak of golden light shot from the spot between his eyebrows and turned into a fist-sized golden tower. With a flash of golden light, the black-robed Bai Dao suddenly appeared in the room. "Brother!" Bai Yuntian immediately cried out when she saw Bai Dao. Great surprise filled her face. Bai Dao also noticed Bai Yuntian, who stood beside him. Immediately, he became stunned as he blankly stared at her. Disbelief flooded his face. "Sister WW, weren't you? How are you still alive?" Bai Dao's face was filled with surprise. To him, his sister had been murdered several years ago. She should have become a pile of dirt by now. After death had separated these siblings for so many years, they had a lot to say once they were together again. Bai Yuntian revealed the secrets of her revival, which immediately stunned Bai Dao. An even greater sense of happiness filled his gaze as he looked at Jianchun. He sighed inside. His nephew kept shocking him more and more. Not only had he become a supreme expert, but he had also become a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master at the same time. Bai Dao also spoke about his encounters outside over the past few years. Ever since Bai Yuntian had died, he had wandered the Tianyuan continent alone, personally finding ways to increase his strength. In the end, he discovered a several thousand-year-old heavenly resource that a Class 6 magical beast guarded. He obtained it after he had chased away the magical beast with a Heaven-tier battle skill. He used it to reach Heaven Saint Master. Afterward, he continued to wander the Tianyuan continent. He entered the depths of the soul-claiming mountains within the Karl Empire and was poisoned. He also faced the pursuit of a few powerful poisonous Class 6 magical beasts. He hid in Venerable Poison Sword's old dwelling after he fled. Venerable Poison Sword's soul saved him. In the end, the two of them had a discussion and reached an agreement. Venerable Poison Sword would help him complete his revenge, and he would offer his body to Venerable Poison Sword in return. However, he had never thought that the events he would experience would be so dramatic. Not only was Venerable Poison Sword wiped out, a portion of his soul and comprehensions of the mysteries of the world remained in Bai Dao's head, benefiting him greatly. Bai Dao spoke indifferently, but Bai Yuntian could still feel the amount of pain Bai Dao had endured during those years. Tears continuously rolled down her face as she sobbed. "Brother, it has really been tough for you over the past few years. You've done too much for our Bai family." "No, I haven't done much. The one who's done a lot is Xiangtian. He has devastated the Yama Hall that wiped out our family back then. So our revenge is finally complete," Bai Dao sternly explained. He understood extremely well that he would probably be dead now if it were not for his nephew. Afterward, Bai Yuntian told Bai Dao that their ancestor, Bai Hai, was completely fine, which Bai Dao rejoiced over. During that night, Jian Shen returned to his room with the space ring from the 5 saint rulers. He spent 4 hours checking through the 1,000+ space rings inside. He found countless purple coins and monster cores of various classes. There were several dozen Class 7 monster cores, and even 5 Class 8 ones. Class 8 monster cores could only be obtained after the death of a magical beast at the level of Saint King. Jian Shen had found them in the space rings of the Spectral Elder and the former Yama. Only experts at their levels could obtain such high-class monster cores. Jian Shen had even found numerous Heaven's Soul Stones in the space rings of other assassins. Clearly, the rock was not valuable to them. Every high-level assassin of the Yama Hall possessed a small piece that had been carved into a unique shape as a token of identification. Jian Shen put away all the Heaven's Soul Stone and the Class 7 and 8 monster cores. He did not even glance at the purple coins a second time. He planned to give them all to Bai Lian the next time he visited Flame City. And to think that back then, I would work as hard as I could, kill without regard for myself, and dance on the edge of life and death, just for those purple coins and low-class monster cores. Now, these items are basically trash to me. Jian Shen smiled brilliantly as he stared at all the space rings on the floor. He immediately laughed at himself while he involuntarily thought back to the days when he would constantly fight to live. A while later, Jian Shen returned to his senses. He stored all the space rings from the Yama Hall into a single space ring before he left the room. He stared at the pitch-black sky as he suddenly rose from the ground. He shot off into outer space with a wild gust of wind and disappeared in the blink of an eye. A huge, silver-white divine hall floated above the Tianyuan continent in outer space. It just happened to be above the Jessin Kingdom. Bright and clear moonlight flowed around the divine hall. The hall continuously absorbed moonlight force. Jian Shen charged into outer space like a comet. He landed steadily outside the main entrance of the divine hall. Currently, the main entrance was tightly closed. Jian Shen seemed rather insignificant compared to the majestic entrance with his stature that had not even reached 2 meters. At this moment, a rumble rang out. The closed door slowly opened and revealed a beauty in a white dress. She held a scepter and stood silently in the doorway. She was Yu Yu. Yu Yu sweetly smiled when she saw Jian Shen outside the doorway. She hugged one of Jian Shen's arms intimately and softly said, "Jian Shen, my master said you had come, but I didn't believe her at all. I didn't think you'd actually come. Have you come to see me?" Jian Shen gently smiled. He said as he stared at Yu Yu's joyful face, "Yue, I've come specifically to see you. Cultivating is extremely boring, especially when you have to cultivate alone in outer space. So I was wondering if you could endure the loneliness." Yu Yu smiled even more sweetly. She looked at Jian Shen with affection. "It is boring and lonely, but as long as I work hard, I won't drag you down once I become powerful. At that time, I can roam the world with you." Jian Shen became stunned. He suddenly felt distressed for some reason, and the heavenly enchantress and Huang Luan quickly flashed through his head. He owed you far too much. Yue, I promise you that once I deal with all my matters, I'll hold a grand marriage with you in the Jessin Kingdom. Jian Shen swore to Yu Yu. This was something that had originated from the bottom of his heart. All right. Yu Yu nodded her head slightly as she happily smiled. Afterward, she sat down on the door sill and hung onto Jian Shen's arm, staring at the huge moon in a daze. Jian Shen and Yu Yu sat together on the steep door sill in cold and silent space, gazing at the stars in the distance. That night, the two of them did not say much. It was pure silence while they carefully cherished this lovely moment. The next day, Jian Shen unwillingly bid farewell to Yu Yu. Then he returned to the Chongyang clan. He got Heiyu to construct a space gate to Flame City, so that he could drop off the huge fortune he had obtained from the Yama Hall. After that, he described the materials needed for the azulate swords in detail to Bai Lian, so that she could use the entire organization's power to search the continent. Once the items were found, he ordered her to purchase them no matter the price. After handing over the matters he needed to Bai Lian, Jian Shen and Heiyu visited Mercenary City together. Bai Dao remained with the Changyang clan. He had just obtained a portion of Venerable Poison Sword's powers, so he needed quite a bit of time to absorb it. Only then would it become his own power. Rui Jin and Hong Lian entered the Saint Artifact. They would only appear by Jian Chen's side when he needed them, while Heiyu remained outside to accompany Jian Chen. Mercenary City warmly welcomed Jian Chen once he arrived. He met with the Grand Elder without any obstructions. Jian Chen could clearly feel an odd presence on Tianjian at this time. He could closely sense that Tianjian's vitality was leaking away at an extremely slow rate. Jian Chen knew that Tianjian had approached the end of his life long ago. Saint Kings only had a lifespan of 6,000 years, and Tianjian had reached Saint King 5,000 years ago. Coupled with the time he had spent cultivating before he had reached Saint King, there was not much more of his 6,000-year lifespan left. Jian Chen suddenly felt a deep sorrow within him. Tianjian had helped him too much before. He had begun to view Tianjian as his own family member long ago, so he just could not bear to helplessly watch Tianjian leave him. However, he was unable to change Tianjian's fate with his current powers. Jian Chen, I've already learned about the matters with Ming Dong. Thank you for earning such a great opportunity for Ming Dong. Tianjian's white clothes fluttered in the wind. He remained as free and approachable as before. Although Ming Dong was not connected to Tianjian by blood in any way, Tianjian still treated him as his own son because of the connection of his ancestor. Jian Chen stared deeply at Tianjian as his emotions became complicated. He secretly sighed inside and avoided the topic of Tianjian's lifespan. He said, Ming Dong is a brother of mine, and we've gone through thick and thin together. I should be helping him, so there's no need to thank me, Senior Tianjian. Jian Chen paused slightly before he continued. Senior Tianjian, I've mainly come this time to see Tai Ta. May I ask where he is? Chapter 1098. Visiting Dragon Island once more too. Come with me, smiled Tianjian. Then he led Jian Chen through a palace and in the end, stopped before a huge square. A 3-meter-tall, burly man swung a huge axe in the center of the square while sweat poured from him. An extremely powerful battle intent enveloped the entire square. The elevated battle intent could affect every single person's soul and make their blood boil. It could reawaken the desire for battle hidden within everyone. The huge man's every stroke was natural. The strokes flowed perfectly and flawlessly between one another. They all possessed a heart-shaking might, as if they could split the entire world in half. Jian Chen could even feel the battle intent as he stood at the edge of the square. The blood within him boiled. He felt tempted to find someone and engage in battle. Tai Ta sure is the war god of the 100 races. The speed at which his strength increases is astonishing. Without any intentional cultivation in the past few years, he has become this powerful already. The energy within him is probably at the 5th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler, but he should be able to match 8th heavenly layer Saint Rulers. If he uses the mysteries of war, he might even be able to fight 9th heavenly layer Saint Rulers, Tianjian explained with a deep voice that carried many emotions. At this moment, Tai Ta seemed to notice Jian Chen and Tianjian's arrival. He stopped swinging his axe and excitedly ran over with it on a shoulder. He said in a low muffled voice, Jian Chen, you've come. I've already stayed here for so long. I'm about to die from boredom. Just say something on my behalf to Senior Tianjian to convince him to let me go. I want to go outside. Tai Ta grumbled. Without Ming Dong by his side, he became even lonelier during these past few years. Tai Ta, actually, I've come to find you this time to take you out, smiled Jian Chen. Really? Jian Chen, are you sure that you're not tricking me? Tai Ta's eyes immediately lit up as joy crossed his face. Of course it's true. As your best friend, I would never trick you even if I have to die, Jian Chen replied. Tianjian frowned slightly and sternly said, Jian Chen, Tai Ta's identity is extremely special. If you take him outside, it's extremely likely that someone who knows about the matters of the ancient times will recognize him. It'll become troublesome then. Don't worry, Senior Tianjian. Since I'm brave enough to bring him out, I can obviously protect him. Even if the 10 Protector clans come, they won't be able to touch him at all. At that time, All I need to do is throw Tai Ta into the bright moon divine hall, and then they'll be helpless. Jianshun was filled with confidence. He had the perfect insurance for Tai Ta's safety. Tianjian did not add anything else, since he knew that Jianshun had already made up his mind. He understood Jianshun's powers extremely well, so he did not stop Jianshun from taking Tai Ta out. Jianshun left Mercenary City with Tai Ta. Then, he asked Heiyu to rip open a space gate to Dragon Island. He entered it with Tai Ta by his side. They arrived outside Dragon Island after they passed through the space gate. They could immediately smell the moist sea breeze, and below them was the deep blue sea. Before them was an extremely dense region of fog that connected the sky with the surface of the sea. Jianshun, why have you brought me here? Tai Ta scratched his head as he asked Jianshun in confusion. Jianshun smiled mysteriously. Tai Ta, you'll find out later on. Come follow me, but do be careful. Once you enter the fog, it's a region of illusion. Everything you see in the fog is fake, so do not treat it as if it is real. Jianshun took a step into the fog first, while Tai Ta followed close behind. The black-robed Heiyu stepped into the fog last, behind both of them. As they passed through the mist, the three of them experienced many attacks from the odd fish, but it did not pose any harm to them. The illusions in the mist constantly appeared and conjured various images to affect their mental state. However, now that Jianshun's soul was extremely powerful, they could no longer affect him much. Dad, Mom, Grandpa, why have you appeared here? Suddenly, Jianshun heard Tai Ta's voice. Clearly, Tai Ta had fallen into an illusion. Even with Jianshun's warning, the illusions were just too realistic. It was almost impossible to distinguish between real and fake, which caused people to fall for them very easily. Jianshun's heart tightened, just as he wanted to pull Tai Ta's arm and swiftly rush out of the region of mist. The imprint of the war axe on the center of Tai Ta's eyebrows began to flicker with a faint golden light. Immediately, an extremely powerful battle intent began to radiate out, shattering the illusion and causing the mist to violently surge. So it was fake. These illusions are just too powerful. I had actually thought it was real earlier. Tai Ta sighed in amazement. The three of them passed through the region of mist very quickly. They flew at a low altitude, below 10 meters, as they headed for the center of the island. Jianshun and Tai Ta ripped to shreds all the living corpses they came across. When Jianshun had entered this place with the heavenly enchantress for the first time, they had feared the living corpses very much. They would deter around any they came across, unwilling to provoke them so easily if at all. However, these living corpses were nothing to Jianshun now. Even the Saint King living corpses they came across were weak, like ants before Jianshun. Jianshun, Tai Ta, and Heiyu passed through the mountains and forests, and broke through many formations in the meantime. They arrived at an empty piece of land in the center of the island very quickly. Weird. I clearly remember that it was this place, so why is it gone now? Jianshun looked around as he mumbled in doubt. Jianshun, why have you brought me here? Is there some kind of treasure? Tai Ta could not help but ask once more. He felt extremely curious. Jianshun said nothing. After he pondered for a while with a frown, an idea flashed through his head. He mumbled to himself. There are many formations hidden on Dragon Island. It's extremely difficult for people to detect it. Maybe the droplet of Erjin's blood is hidden in the empty space as well. A spot where it'll only appear if the formation has been triggered. Jianshun believed this idea more and more as he thought about it. Afterward, he called out the white tiger and told Heiyu and Tai Ta to wait where they were. He jumped on the back of the white tiger and began to run around wildly. Jianshun did not dare to risk himself in the formation formed from a drop of Erjin's blood. Erjin's was someone who had surpassed Saint Emperor. So no matter how confident Jianshun was, he did not wish to test the might of the killing formation. He could still remember that the Saint King corpses that entered the killing formation were silently turned to dust. Suddenly, Jianshun's vision began to change. The green mountains disappeared, and he suddenly appeared in a bleak wasteland. There was no vegetation, and it stretched as far as the eye could see. No one knew just how large it was. This is the place. Jianshun rejoiced inside, and immediately thought of the previous war god he had encountered here. A surging battle intent suddenly filled the bleak world and completely engulfed the region. It seemed to have become its own domain. A condescending aura filled the battle intent, as if only the owner of the aura was supreme. Jian Shen had rarely ever come across such a powerful battle intent. It seemed to possess a terrifying might that was able to rip through space and destroy worlds. Bang! 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 With a series of booms, the ground began to violently tremble, like an earthquake was occurring. A golden figure appeared on the edge of Jian Shen's vision. The figure possessed great stature and was clad in golden armor. He carried a golden war axe on his shoulders, and his eyes burned with battle intent. He seemed to have been born for battle. He was the war god from ancient times Ergens. Even though he was conjured from a droplet of blood, he still possessed the might of a war god. Jian Shen's body shook, and he immediately paled. Every step taken by Ergens seemed to land on his heart, which made Jian Shen feel like his heart was about to shatter. Jian Shen's senses were much more powerful than before since this was his second time experiencing this formation. Although he possessed strength that rivaled 7th heavenly layer Saint King's, he felt fragile before the golden figure. He even felt disillusion, where even Saint Emperor, who fell into the formation, would not be able to face Ergens. Although the differences between Saint Ruler, Saint King, and Saint Emperor were huge, they all belonged to sainthood. Ergens had surpassed Saint Emperor and stepped into the Origin Realm. The Origin Realm and sainthood were two completely different realms of cultivation. The differences could be described as chasms. The difference between Saint Emperors and those in the Origin Realm were akin to Heaven Saint Masters and Saint Rulers. Xiaobai, let's leave quick, Jian Shen called out to the White Tiger. The battle intent had already locked onto him and had rendered him motionless. Seriousness also filled the White Tiger's eyes. After the supreme battle intent enveloped it, it too could feel the strength of the opponent. The White Tiger immediately growled and leaped out of the formation without any obstructions. As the White Tiger pulled Jian Shen out of the formation, the surrounding scenery returned to its previous state. The space behind them rippled violently. They could clearly see a droplet of golden blood floating in the middle of the air. Tai Ta, come quick, Jian Shen called out to Tai Ta, who was quite far away. Tai Ta and He Yu immediately shot over from afar and arrived before Jian Shen with a few steps. The two of them gazed unblinkingly at the droplet of golden blood that hung in the air. What is this? I actually feel a fear that originates from the depths of my soul. It makes me tremble, and I can feel an extremely powerful and pure energy hidden inside. He Yu closely stared at the golden droplet of blood. He felt extremely astounded since even Saint Emperor could not give him such an intense feeling. Chapter 1099. Legacy of the War God. Tai Ta's gaze became rather complicated. At that moment, his heart struggled to remain calm, beginning to wildly beat and shiver. Even his burly body shook slightly as a deep feeling of sorrow radiated from him. Jian Shen, just what is that? Why do I feel so sad and painful when I see it? Jian Shen, I feel horrible inside. Tai Ta's expression suddenly became extremely pained. Even he did not know why he felt like that. That's the blood of the war god Ergens. Tai Ta, the owner of the blood is your predecessor, Jian Shen explained with mixed emotions. What? This is blood left behind by the ancient war god, Ergens? He Yu was shocked. However, he eased up soon and said, no wonder my body shakes. So it's a droplet of essence blood from Ergens. Tai Ta stood there blankly as he stared at the droplet of golden blood. 2 clear streaks of tears ran down his face. He was the new war god. Although he was different than the previous god, they possessed a similar bloodline that came from the same origins. Tai Ta seemed to see the previous war god leading his clansmen into war as he stood before the droplet of blood, searching for a safe place for his clansmen with all he had before dying heroically in a foreign land. A deep sorrow welled up in Tai Ta. He seemed to have formed a subtle connection with the droplet of blood before him. The space in front of him blurred, and the golden droplet of blood became fainter and fainter, as if it would disappear into the empty space at any moment. The formation there would only be activated if someone entered it. Otherwise, it would remain well hidden in empty space. Now that Jianshen had already left after triggering it, the formation would disappear soon. At this moment, the drop of golden blood began to forcefully move up and down. A blinding golden light radiated from the droplet, forcefully stopping the formation's power. An extremely powerful ripple of energy erupted from the blood with a surging battle intent. Bang! 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 With several consecutive booms in the surroundings, the energy from the blood broke through the formation which restricted it, causing the surrounding mountains and rocks to crack. No longer restricted by the formation, the supreme battle intent and terrifying energy within the blood immediately began to radiate out, enveloping the entire island. It caused the mountain ranges to violently tremble. The drop of blood turned into a golden streak of light as it flew toward Tai Ta. It then disappeared into his forehead. Immediately, the battle axe imprint between Tai Ta's eyebrows began to radiate with blinding light, outshining the sun. The golden glow illuminated the world, dyeing the world gold. Tai Ta could not help but close his eyes. His consciousness had already entered a bleak world, completely enveloped by a supreme battle intent. However, not only did Tai Ta fail to find the battle intent to be uncomfortable, he found it to be extremely warm and comforting. The feeling was like a child who had entered his mother's bosom after leaving home for many years. 10 meters in front of Tai Ta, a man clad in golden armor stood with his arms crossed and with his back to Tai Ta. A supreme presence radiated from him, as if he was a god of the world. Tai Ta could not see the man's face, but he felt extremely close to the man. This closeness was hundreds, even thousands times more powerful than what he felt with his parents. My name is Ergens. I am a member of the warring gods. Only those who are connected to me by blood can awaken this imprint. A heavy voice boomed through the world. It was powerful, and contained a strong attack toward souls. Only those of the warring gods could withstand it. To think that the people of the warring gods are born from the world, blessed by the world, and inherit their abilities from the world. Our battle prowess is peerless, yet I died in a foreign battlefield in the end. What a pity, what a regrettable matter. A deep sorrow filled the world. This was the feeling that Ergens had left behind all those years ago. The magical beasts went too far. They invaded my homeland and chased away my citizens. I led my clansmen to fight the magical beasts, but I was forced to flee since I could not defeat the winged tiger god. I then turned to the Tianyuan continent, yet I was stopped by Emotianyan. To think that I was a warring god, possessing peerless battle prowess and abilities that came from the world itself, invincible against those at the same level of cultivation, but I was still not the winged tiger god, or Emotianyan's opponent. What a joke, what a funny joke. I've already died, but I still worry about my citizens. New War God, go complete my final wish. Protect my citizens well, and help them find an even more beautiful world. In return, I shall bequeath this drop of essence blood upon you. With that, Ergens' body suddenly shattered, disintegrating into countless fragments. The winged tiger god and Emotianyan are unfathomable. They have already broken through the limitations of life, and survive with the world. They are eternal, so do not avenge me. The moment before Ergens had completely turned into fragments, another voice boomed through the sky. Afterward, Ergens completely disappeared, and the bleak world loudly shattered apart. The fragments of Ergens were split into two portions. One consisted of fragments of memories that entered Tai Ta's soul, while the other fragments were the energy within the essence blood, which fused with Tai Ta's body. Immediately, Tai Ta felt many things appear in his head. These things were all the battle comprehensions of Ergens, containing many frighteningly powerful mysteries of war. The droplet of essence blood had already turned into a powerful energy that flowed through Tai Ta's body. Although there was very little of it, it was still energy left behind by Ergens. It contained vast amounts of energy of the world that had been compressed into a tiny droplet, so it was extremely terrifying and powerful. Just that tiny amount of energy was enough to rival a portion of all the energy within a saint emperor, enough to rival several saint kings. Tai Ta's entire body was coated by a blinding golden light. He continuously absorbed the memories of Ergens, as the extremely pure energy flowed unceasingly into his body. It was converted into Taita's own power at an unbelievable rate. Warring gods were birthed by the world, and were richly endowed with advantages. As Ergens possessed the same bloodline as Taita, there were no backlashes or consequences for Taita, as he increased his strength through the energy Ergens had left behind. Taita's presence rapidly strengthened, and the power within him increased quickly as well. He went from the 5th heavenly layer to the 6th heavenly layer very quickly, and not only did his rate of increase fail to show any signs of slowly down, it instead skyrocketed, becoming faster and faster. Jianchun and Heiyu stood 30 meters away, as they stared at Taita unblinkingly, silently watching over him. Looks like Ergens' drop of essence blood is being absorbed by Taita. This is a droplet of blood left behind by someone who has surpassed Saint Emperor. The energy hidden inside is so terrifying that it can even injure Saint Emperors. Yet Taita's obtained it so easily. Heiyu emotionally sighed as he looked at Taita with some envy. I've guessed correctly. Ergens' droplet of blood really is extremely beneficial to Taita. Now that Taita has come across this item, I wonder what level his strength will reach. Jianchun was filled with anticipation. 7th heavenly layer, 8th heavenly layer, 9th heavenly layer. Taita's strength skyrocketed at an incomparable pace. In just half a day, he reached the 9th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler, from his original 5th heavenly layer, bypassing 4 lesser cultivation levels. Jianchun clenched his hands as he stared at Taita without blinking at all. Although Saint Ruler and Saint King both belonged to sainthood, the difference between the two was still very great. He wondered if Taita could borrow the energy within the blood to break through the barrier of the 9th heavenly layer and reach Saint King. Taita's presence at the 9th heavenly layer slowly increased. Now the energy he needed for each level of cultivation was increasing, which was why it took him longer and longer to break through. Finally, Taita's presence reached the very peak of the 9th heavenly layer. As Jianchun watched with much anticipation, a vast and surging pressure immediately appeared from Taita's presence. It was extremely weak at first before quickly strengthening and blanketing the surroundings. At the same time, the supreme battle intent sandwiched within the presence underwent a qualitative change, becoming much more powerful than before. Suddenly, a golden streak of light cut through the sky. It passed through the forbidden altitude of the Dragon Island, and landed accurately in between Taita's eyebrows, on the imprint of the battle axe. This was the world passing on its teachings. Warring gods were born from the world, and were blessed by the world. Every time they entered a new cultivation realm, the world would pass on teachings. Taita subconsciously raised his head, and pointed the imprint at the sky. He accepted the teachings of the world as mysterious information appeared from the void, entering between Taita's eyebrows through the golden streak of light. In a desolate continent, a group of life forms vastly different from humans inhabited the land. There were 10-meter-tall giants as well as handsome and pretty winged elves with pointy ears. There were also dark-skinned dwarves that were no taller than a meter, and even rockmen completely made from stone. The continent was known as the Wasteland Continent, home to the 100 races. It was inhabited by a myriad of races, not just a single race like humans. However, there were some races who seemed extremely similar to humans. At the center of the continent stood a mountain range that reached into the clouds. It was barren, without any vegetation. There were odd rock formations that stood around the dangerous terrain. It was unscalable. At the highest peak of the mountain range, a divine golden hall radiated with blinding light all year round. It stood there silently and radiated with a simple but ancient presence. It had existed for countless years, and was almost as old as the ground. Chapter 1100, Shock of the 100 Races. The Divine Hall was the most sacred place among the members of the 100 races. It was the pillar of support for the entire continent, the War God Hall. Currently, a wrinkly-winged, old elven man with pointy ears sat on the ground within a majestic hall of the War God Hall. He glowed with a green light as his vitality rapidly leaked away. His soul was quickly weakening as well, and even his skin was shriveling up. Hundreds of people with different statuses sat before the elven man. Sorrow filled all of their faces. Don't feel sad, don't be sorrowful. Life and death are things everyone needs to go through. I am only leaving sooner. The elven old man indifferently smiled. He was a hall elder of the War God Hall, having reached the great perfection of Saint King long ago. He was currently facing the end of his life. His soul would completely dissipate without much longer. All that would be left would be his body. Zohar, go without worry. I shall be accompanying you in 100 years, a red-robed old man hoarsely said. His mood was extremely heavy. He too was a hall elder, and his name was Yen-sun, and he only had 100 years left. The elven old man looked at the sky and deeply sighed. Reaching Saint Emperor is becoming more and more difficult now. His soul was rapidly dissipating into the surroundings. He had already reached the end of his life, and the moment his soul completely vanished, he would have passed away. Suddenly he became surprised. His eyes immediately began to shine with interest as he cried out, "TT! This is the presence of the war god. I actually feel the presence of the war god. The war god of the 100 races has finally reappeared." What the elven old man said was shocking. So shocking in fact that the expression of everyone present changed. "Zohar, what did you say? You've sensed the presence of the war god?" A hall elder with similar strength cried out in astoundment. Everyone there became shocked. Disbelief flooded all of their faces, but that disbelief was soon replaced by ravishing joy. The war god of the 100 races had disappeared for over 1,000,000 years. The war god meant a lot to the 100 races. Not only was he the god to all members of the 100 races, he was their pillar of support, and a sign for the blossoming glory of the 100 races. The elven old man became extremely excited. He said with a trembling voice, "My soul is dissipating into the surroundings." So it fused with the world for a very short instance. In that moment, I sensed the presence of the war god. "Zohar, are you sure it's the war god? Are you completely sure?" A white-robed hall elder asked. He too was extremely excited. The elven old man stood up and gazed into the distance. He confidently said, "I've sensed the presence of the war god many times in the forbidden grounds. And this supreme battle intent can only come from the war god. No one can imitate it, so it can't be wrong. It can't be wrong at all. It must be the war god. Our war god has finally descended to this world, and the 100 races can soar once more." The old man became extremely emotional, as two turbid streaks of tears rolled down his cheeks. "Can you sense where the war god is right now? We'll go welcome the great war god immediately," a hall elder urgently inquired. The soul of the old man dissipated faster and faster, as his vitality leaked away. He became more and more shriveled. He shook his head and said with a face full of pity, "I could only sense the war god's presence the moment my soul dissipated into the surroundings, and became part of the world. I cannot sense where the war god is. We'll send orders to find the great war god. Even if we have to search the entire continent, we need to find the war god," a well-respected elder of the war god hall emotionally said. "Now that the new war god has been born, we need to collect the remaining beast furs as soon as possible, so that the war god can become even more powerful. Otherwise, I worry that the magical beasts and humans will harm him before he fully matures," said a burly middle-aged man. Although he sat on the ground, he was still 5 meters tall. He was the patriarch of the giants. "I've just received news that the assassination organization we had secretly developed on the Tianyuan continent has been devastated by someone. The difficulty of finding the beast furs on the Tianyuan continent has become too great now," a hall elder said with a deep voice. "What? The Yamahall's been wiped out? Doesn't that mean the only way for us to find where the beast furs are is to cast the secret technique? The price to cast the secret technique is far too great. It needs the sacrifice of a Saint King at great perfection, and the activity it creates is just too large. Not only will we find out, even the protector clans will know. We cast the secret technique several times in the past with a few elders, but the furs all ended up in the hands of the protector clans, even though we found where they were. It's almost impossible to take them back once the protector clans get their hands on them. With the searching done by over 10 elders in the past, 13 of the 18 beast furs have appeared. We are only in possession of 4 of them. The remaining 9 are with the protector clans and mercenary city of the Tianyuan continent, as well as the beast god hall. We don't know where the 5 final beast furs are. If we need to gather all 18 pieces, we need to get the beast furs in the hands of the protector clans and the beast god continent. We need to go to war with them sooner or later, so it's no problem if they know where the beast furs are. The upper echelon of the war god hall discussed the situation. Today was the day when a hall elder was supposed to pass away from old age, and it was supposed to be a day filled with sorrow. Instead, the atmosphere had reversed because of the news of the rebirth of the war god. Nothing was more important to the 100 races than the rebirth of the war god. The old elf said, "You're right. Now that the war god has appeared once more, we need to assemble all 18 beast furs in the shortest amount of time possible. We will end up fighting the protector clans and the beast god continent sooner or later, so why should we worry about the remaining beast furs falling into their hands now? My life should be dissipating into the world anyway, so my life is as useless as a feather, but it looks like I can utilize my life for an even greater cause. Why don't I sacrifice my life and find the remaining 5 beast furs? We can only do that now. Zohar, you don't have much time left, so immediately cast the secret technique to find the remaining beast furs. Jarlai, immediately use the war god's order to summon all the saint kings of the continent, so they can gather at the war god hall as soon as possible, and then send emissaries to scour the entire continent for the great war god. The fire-robed Yinsun decisively handed out commands. Summoning all the saint kings of the 100 races? Elder, are we declaring war on the Tianyuan continent? Everyone in the hall became shocked. The hall elder shook his head. At that moment, his eyes became extremely narrowed, as if he could look through space. He seemed extremely terrifying as he coldly said, "No, we are not declaring war on the Tianyuan continent. We are declaring war on the protector clans. If the other beast furs appear, people of the protector clans will definitely go forth to collect them for themselves. Their clans will definitely be weakened by this, and we will take advantage of their weakness to attack the protector clans. We will take back the beast furs." Esteemed elder, will we really succeed if we attack the protector clans? A famed expert among the people asked. The elder replied, "Our overall strength may pale in comparison to the Tianyuan continent by a lot, but our experts have all gathered together this time. Even if the 10 protector clans work together, they cannot stop us." On the Tianyuan continent, the 10 protector clans and mercenary city were the supreme rulers without a doubt, but there were also many ancient clans and large organizations as well as quite a few hermit experts who resided in desolate regions. As a result, even though the 100 races was far weaker than the whole Tianyuan continent, they were strong enough to deal with just the protector clans. With the war god's order out, all the saint kings of the wasteland continent ripped open space gates to make their way to the war god hall. Although many of them were very far away, traversing the distance was just as easy as breathing for the saint kings. Very soon, over 200 saint kings gathered at the war god hall. It was a huge number, all the saint kings of the 100 races. Yinsun was a hall elder of the war god hall. He had reached the great perfection of Saint King many years ago, and had already lived for 6,000 years. He had 100 years left before the end of his life, which was why he possessed such great prestige on the continent. He was one of the few who stood at the very top among the 100 races. He explained the rebirth of the war god, as well as the plan to search for the beast furs, informing everyone. All the experts that had gathered there became extremely excited when they heard that the war god had been reborn. Some of the older members had even begun to uncontrollably cry. At the same time, the Elven Hall elder sacrificed his life to cast the secret technique to search for the beast furs. The map of the Tianyuan continent appeared in the empty space before him, and constantly grew. In the end, a city and an ancient mountain range appeared as 2 golden balls of light constantly flickered in the 2 images. The Elven elder's body quietly turned into ash after casting the secret technique. Even his skeleton was not left behind, but his soul had already dissipated. All that was left was his will. Most of my energy has already dispersed, so I could only find 2 of the 5 beast furs. The 3 others have been obstructed by a mysterious force, so I couldn't find them. However, I am certain that the 3 of them are together. Chapter 1101. Invasion of the Hundred Races 1. The elven elder completely disappeared from the world, since his soul had already dissipated. Originally he could have left behind a complete body, but he turned into a pile of ash because he cast the secret technique. Great-grandfather. Old Majesty. The elves in the hall all mourned as sorrow overwhelmed them. Elder Yinsun stood silently in tribute to the elf a little longer, before quickly dismissing his emotions. He coldly said, "The Protector clans have a total of 6 beast furs, and they are in the hands of the Shunshao sect, the Patian sect, the Yangji sect, the Tyrant's Blade School, the Heavenly Incense School, and the Muyuan clan. We will split into 8 parties. 2 will go take the 2 beast furs that have not been claimed, while the remaining 6 will attack the 6 Protector clans. Remember to bring the forbidden artifacts to counter the Emperor armaments of the Protector clans. Mercenary City has the protection of a barrier spirit, so it's extremely tough. Once we obtain the 6 beast furs from the Protector clans, we will work together to use the forbidden artifacts and break through the barrier spirit's defenses." In a medium-sized kingdom on the Tianyuan continent, a middle-aged man dressed as a mercenary sat all by himself at a table while he drank. His appearance was ordinary, the type where he would not raise any attention if he was thrown into a crowd. However, he radiated with a ferocious presence, deterring the other drinking mercenaries from approaching him. Although the man was only an Earth Saint Master, he was considered one of the rare experts in a medium-sized city. No one was willing to provoke him easily. Suddenly, the space ring on the man's finger began to glow with a blinding white light. A palm-sized piece of fur flew out and shot high into the sky, radiating with a vast energy. It fluttered in the wind, having enlarged to be 10 meters across. The profound presence of the truths of the world radiated from the beast fur. They seemed like the mysteries of the world, but they were even more complicated and difficult to comprehend. The white beast furs hid a huge secret. Jian Chun had only triggered some of the simple mysteries of the world hiding within them, allowing him to reach Saint Ruler. Currently, the beast fur had been fully activated, awakening all the secrets hidden inside. Not only did the surrounding space violently tremble, as the profound truths of the world radiated from the beast fur, but a strange ripple also expanded across the entire continent, and all the supreme experts of the continent could sense it. An ancient clan stood in some ancient mountains. There was a similar 10-meter-long beast fur floating in the air. It too radiated with the truths of the world, which were far more profound than the mysteries of the world, and coupled with it was a strange ripple that expanded across the continent. Beside the beast fur was a Saint King floating in the air. He radiated with a blanketing presence. He wanted to put the beast fur away, but to his surprise, an invisible energy poured out of the beast fur and formed an independent domain that kept him away. He could not approach it even with his strength. Just what are the origins of this odd beast fur? What are the secrets hidden within it? The Saint King growled as he felt panic-stricken inside. The beast fur had caused too great of a disturbance, and he worried that it would attract other great experts. In the Pure Heart Pavilion of the Protector clans, the sect master Wu Chunzi stared into the distance with her steady eyes as she murmured, "The 100 races have actually cast the secret technique again in search of the fur from the winged tiger god. Sigh, it's very difficult for them to assemble all 18 pieces, so why bother?" The great elders that were currently cultivating in the Changyang clan snapped open their eyes at the same time. With a movement, they disappeared from their rooms, reappearing in the conference hall within the Divine Hall. Some heaven-defying treasure must have appeared on the Tianyuan continent. That's why there's such a great disturbance. I can actually feel the truths of the world that far exceed the mysteries of the world I have comprehended. Juri, Zhenghua, the 2 of you might as well go out and have a look. It doesn't matter what the treasure is, you have to bring it back. Changyang Qingyun sternly gave out orders. Changyang Qing Juri and Changyang Yuan Zhenghua nodded and left the Protector clan together. All the great elders within the Yangji sect had already gathered together. Yangzi sat high up at the front as he sternly said, "You must have already sensed it as well. A strange ripple has actually expanded through the Tianyuan continent, and I can vaguely sense the profound truths of the world within it. It's difficult to comprehend even for me. The question is just what is this item that can cause such a great disturbance? A great elder asked out of curiosity. It doesn't matter what it is, we need to go have a look. If it's some peerless treasure, we need to use everything we can to take it for ourselves. Then let Tian Shuzi and me go have a look. Two great elders immediately left the Yangji sect. At the same time, Guihai Dao, who sat on top of the emperor armament in the forbidden grounds of the Tyrant's Blade School, slowly opened his eyes. His eyes seemed to contain a whole different world, giving off an unfathomable feeling. This is a pulse of origin energy, though it's a pity that it's just the presence and not the actual thing. Otherwise, I could have used it to increase my strength. Reaching that point, Guihai Dao suddenly paused. A gleam of light flickered through his eyes, and he said with a deep voice, "No, there seems to be much more in there." Guihai Dao sensed it carefully. After a while he became rather stern. He murmured, "My strength may be nowhere as great as before, but to trick me is still not easy. There's something hidden within the beast fur that even I cannot detect. Looks like his strength already exceeds me when I was at my peak. He has probably attained godhood already. Only someone that powerful can kill a member of the warring gods. The fur of the winged tiger god is thorny object. Once dragged into it, you might even end up offending the people of the warring gods. The warring gods are people who reside at the top and have the potential to become grand primes. They're not people who a mere adventurer like me can afford to offend." Guihai Dao mumbled to himself as deep fear filled his eyes. The disturbance from the two beast furs attracted the 10 protector clans. Other than the Pure Heart Pavilion and the Tyrant's Blade School, experts from the 8 other clans were all mobilized in attempt to obtain this peerless treasure. Quite a few large clans and organizations, along with some ancient clans and experts who hid in desolate regions, took part as well. They all traveled toward the two beast furs from various parts of the continent. The middle-aged man with the beast fur could no longer bother with drinking anymore in the medium-sized city. He immediately leaped out from the tavern and stared at the 10-meter-long beast fur in shock. His expression was filled with excitement as he murmured, "Treasure, treasure. It really was a treasure. I'm rich now." The beast fur fluttered several hundred meters in the wind as its terrifying ripples of energy alarmed everyone within the city. Immediately, a large number of mercenaries and merchants stepped out of their inns and stared at the sky in shock. "Arg!" A long roar rang out from afar as an Earth Saint Master shot into the sky, flickering with bright saint force. He wanted to take the beast fur. The mercenary originally in possession of the beast fur immediately fell into a rage when he saw this. He roared out furiously, "This is mine! Don't steal it from me!" With that, he drew his saint weapon. Saint force surged out of his body as he charged toward the other Earth Saint Master. He wanted to obstruct him from taking the beast fur. The two of them began to fight very quickly. Although there were no Heaven Saint Masters in the medium-sized city, there were quite a few Earth Saint Masters, far more than just the two of them. As the two of them fought on equal ground, another 4 Earth Saint Masters leaped high up into the air. They shot toward the sky and flickered with powerful energy. However, the beast fur levitated at an altitude too high. It was several hundred meters up, and there was nothing in the surroundings that they could borrow to jump higher. It was impossible for them to achieve such an altitude with their strength as Earth Saint Masters. So the 4 of them fell down powerlessly once they broke an altitude of 100 meters. The Earth Saint Masters were all filled with an unwillingness to give in. No one wanted to give up on this treasure that they could tell was valuable with a single glance. They all roared out and used everything they had to jump once more. However, the highest they could reach was 200 meters, still quite far from the beast fur. "God damn it, why is it floating so high?" An Earth Saint Master swore furiously. He was filled with a strong feeling of regret. At this moment, the space in the sky began to wildly distort. A space gate suddenly appeared and 2 white-robed old men with raised eyebrows stepped out. They can rip through space to create space gates. They're Saint Kings. A knowledgeable Earth Saint Master cried out. The appearance of the 2 old men immediately attracted everyone's attention. All the people in the city immediately fell silent when they heard the word Saint King. A dead silence filled the entire city, as everyone glanced at the two old men together. Their eyes were filled with deep admiration and curiosity. Saint Kings were existences that stood at the apex of the Tianyuan continent. Not only were their numbers extremely few on the Tianyuan continent, it was difficult for an ordinary people to come across one, even within a span of 1,000 years. These experts, without a doubt, were like gods to the mercenaries and merchants of the lowest level. They stood at the very top and were dignified and divine. Chapter 1102. Invasion of the Hundred Races 2. The two old men who had emerged from the crack in space stared at the huge white beast fur floating before them, as a sliver of amazement appeared in their eyes. One of them said, "I never thought that the great disturbance would actually come from this odd piece of beast fur. I wonder what mysteries hide within it." The other old man stared closely at the beast fur as he pondered. He said, "Weird. Why do I feel like this piece of beast fur is the same as the beast fur at the top layer of the treasury from our Shinshao sect? Just the size is different." The two old men were great elders of the Shinshao sect. Now that you mention it, it really does seem rather similar, but that doesn't matter. We need to obtain it, said the other old man. He took a step forward and traversed close to 100 meters to reach the beast fur. At this moment, another space gate ripped open. Two bearded middle-aged men walked out in tight blue robes. A gleam of light immediately flashed through their eyes when they saw one of the Shenshao sect great elders reach toward it. One of them immediately punched out from afar. The fist broke through the air, and a vast energy shot towards the great elder like a dragon. The second great elder of the Shenshao sect roared out. Just as he was about to do something, he was locked on by the vast presence from the other middle-aged man. The great elder, who tried to take the beast fur, understood the strength of the punch. He became stern and gave up on the beast fur, striking out with his palm with lightning speed to deal with the punch. Without an expected boom, the two energies collided mid-air and actually nullified each other. They both vanished. They were only several hundred meters above ground, and there was a medium-sized city that reached into the millions right below them. If they struck out with all they had as Saint Kings, the residual energy would definitely wreak havoc upon the city below. It would lead to hundreds of thousands, or even millions of deaths. Then the both of them would suffer the punishment of celestial decay. They needed to control their attacks when they were so close to a densely packed city. People of the Moyuan clan, this beast fur was first discovered by our Shenshao sect, so it is ours. Do you want to steal it from us? A great elder from the Shenshao sect called out. You can cut the bullshit. I'm no kid that you can just trick. Do you really think that it's your Shenshao sects just because you said so? I can say it's the Moyuan clans if that's the case, sneered the middle-aged man who had punched out. People of the Shenshao sect, this beast fur already belongs to the Moyuan clan. Please leave immediately. I don't wish to see our two organizations fall out with one another over something like this. The other middle-aged man from the Moyuan clan spoke as well. The two great elders of the Shenshao sect became pale white when they heard those words. They furiously yelled out, Moyuan clan, aren't you acting a little too haughty? Do you really think that our Shenshao sect fears you? On the surface, the 10 protector clans were the most powerful organizations on the continent and were responsible with guarding the continent, but they would often get into conflicts with one another below the surface. They would even fall out with one another sometimes. A middle-aged man sneered. The two of them were slightly stronger than the two great elders of the Shenshao sect, so they obviously did not fear them. Immediately, one of them extended his hand to take the beast fur. Don't you dare take something that belongs to the Shenshao sect. How could the two great elders let the people of the Moyuan clan take something that belonged to them? They immediately worked together and became embroiled in a great battle with the people of the Moyuan clan. After clashing several times, the surrounding space began to violently pulse. Space gates suddenly appeared again and Saint Kings emerged from them. They either radiated with vast presences or seemed like ordinary people. Other than people from the 10 protector clans, many ancestors of ancient clans, as well as a few people who belonged to no organizations appeared. The situation immediately became messy with their arrival. The people of the Shunshao sect and Moyuan clan stopped fighting as well, and stood about indifferently. Ha ha, it sure is lively here. I never thought that so many renowned people would come. However, there's only one treasure but so many of us. It'll be hard to distribute it. A Saint King from a Protector clan laughed. Those who wish not to take part leave immediately. Some people have no need to take part in this. A bald old man coldly commanded. He glared at the weaker ancestors of ancient clans, and those who were not part of any organizations. He acted extremely harsh. The weaker Saint Kings who did not belong to the Protector clans immediately revealed horrible expressions when they heard his orders. However, they dared not to speak against the great elders of the Protector clans, even though they were furious. So a few of them immediately ripped open a space gate and left. With their departure, there were only 20-odd people left. Besides the people who belonged to the Protector clans, there were a few experts who were relatively stronger and did not fear the Protector clans. The bald old man raised an eyebrow complacently when he saw that he had scared away quite a few Saint Kings with a single sentence. He said, "Now let's properly discuss how we will split this treasure." As soon as the bald man stopped talking, the space nearby began to violently tremble. A huge space gate suddenly formed, and a tremendous presence leaked out from inside. It stunned all the experts of the 10 Protector clans, and they failed to return to their senses for some time. 20 or 30 experts charged out of the space gate extremely quickly with surging presences. Every single one of them was a Saint King, and there was no lack of Saint Kings at great perfection. The group was extremely powerful. As soon as the people emerged from the space gate, vast amounts of energy flickered in the surroundings. They drew their weapons and began attacking all the human Saint Kings present, while one of the Saint Kings at great perfection charged for the beast fur. He grabbed it before quickly throwing it into his space ring. Shit, they're people of the 100 races. A great elder from a Protector clan recognized who the people were. His facial expression drastically changed as he cried out. Without any hesitation, he immediately drew his saint weapon to face off against them. The remaining human Saint Kings all returned to their senses as well. Faced against such great foes, no one bothered with the beast fur anymore. All of them drew their saint weapons to face the enemy. They knew extremely well that against the experts of the 100 races, it would be fight of life or death. They would not show mercy just because they were members of the Protector clans. There were a little more Saint Kings of the 100 races than the humans. Coupled with that fact that they had Saint Kings at great perfection leading them, the humans fell to a disadvantage as soon as they began fighting. No one dared to use everything they had. If the ripples of battle killed off several 100,000, or even millions of people, none of them could leave unscathed. As a result, there was no earth-shaking disturbances while the several dozen Saint Kings fought in the air. Only the space cracked and healed continuously. How dare you? Do you think that your lives are too easy? In all these years, we've never attacked you out of our own accord. Yet you've begun invading our Tianyuan continent. People of the 100 races, are you declaring war on the Tianyuan continent? The Saint Kings from the Protector clans angrily swore, as they fended off the 100 races. All of them used secret techniques to secretly communicate with their clans. The item has been obtained. Don't waste time here, let's go. The Saint King at great perfection who had taken the beast fur coldly gave a command before swiftly retreating. He created a space gate in a region of stable space and left through it. The other experts of the 100 races did not get drawn into the battles either. They all knocked back their opponents with powerful strikes before quickly disappearing into the space gate. In the blink of an eye, all the Saint Kings of the 100 races that had appeared suddenly disappeared. It had been less than 20 seconds since they had arrived. The whole occurrence was extremely sudden. The human Saint Kings all floated there with sunken faces. Some of them even had residual blood at the corner of their mouths. The battle was very short, but a few of them had been injured. 100 races, how dare you invade our Tianyuan continent? We will not let this matter go so easily. The bald old man from a Protector clan roared at the sky. A powerful killing intent radiated from him, tempting to destroy his surroundings. In ancient times, the humans of the Tianyuan continent really were not the opponents of the 100 Races. But the era was different now. They inhabited the Tianyuan continent that was rich with resources, while the 100 Races lived on the rural wasteland continent. They were nowhere near overall strength of the Tianyuan continent. They were no longer as great as before. Another few space gates were suddenly ripped open. A few Saint Kings from protector clans had received the request for help, so they urgently hurried over. What's happened? A Saint King that had just arrived asked with a deep voice. It's the 100 Races. A great group of them suddenly invaded our continent and stole the treasure. A similar occurrence happened in the sky above the ancient clan. One of the two beast furs on the continent was in the medium-sized city, while the other one was kept by an ancient clan. The two beast furs had drawn the attention of many experts on the continent, but they were all taken in the end by the experts of the 100 Races, who had appeared suddenly. For some time, the invasion of the 100 Races and their action of taking the beast furs caused much irritation to the protector clans and peak-level experts. They swore that they would seek an explanation over this matter. However, as the members of the protector clans discussed the matter of the 100 Races, the other 6 parties had already gathered outside the Shenxiao sect, the Patian sect, the Yangji sect, the Tyrant's Blade School, the Heaven's Incense School, and the Moyuan clan of the 10 protector clans. Although the places where the 10 protector clans resided were extremely well hidden, the clans' residences were not secret to the experts of the 100 Races. Chapter 1103. Invasion of the 100 Races 3. Use the forbidden artifact. We need to break into the space of the protector clans as soon as possible, and then use the forbidden artifact to charge through the obstacles, so we can get the beast fur. All the leaders of the 6 parties gave out orders, giving the order to attack at the same time. A simple great saber stood outside the independent space of the Yangji sect. It radiated an extremely forceful presence. The saber was 100 meters long and brightly lit up the surrounding hundreds of meters. The weapon stood dead straight with its hilt pointed at the sky, while the tip pointed down into the earth. A destructive energy rippled in the surroundings, causing the surroundings to violently tremble. Space distorted and became a mess as countless rocks nearby were reduced to dust. The Saint Kings at great perfection from the 100 Races stood before the saber as they controlled it. They were very stern. The might of the forbidden artifact was just too great. Even when the two of them worked together, they found it rather difficult to control. The two Saint Kings roared at the sky in an earth-shaking manner, and a 5-meter-thick ray of light shot from the saber. It struck the space before them with lightning-like speed. The space there began to violently tremble. A huge crack in space appeared. What was revealed was not the pitch-black depths of the universe, but a beautiful smaller world. The independent space inhabited by the Yangji sect was punctured by the forbidden artifact, causing the entire place to violently jolt. However, before the people of the Yangji sect could understand what was going on, the group of experts from the 100 Races charged in from outside. They used the forbidden artifact to pave a path, killing whoever got in the way. They killed their way into the Yangji sect. Dong! The heavy sound of a bell rang from a divine hall within the sect. It was extremely loud and hurried, and vaguely possessed the intention of going to war. It had been countless years since this bell had last rang. It was not controlled by people. It was automatic, and it would only ring when the Yangji sect faced the invasion of enemies. In the most central divine hall of the sect, a few white-robed great elders walked out in surprise. They called out, "Their enemies invading!" All disciples faced the enemies immediately. As soon as they said that, the great elders saw 30 Saint Kings rushing over with the forbidden artifact. It's the members of the 100 Races. The 100 Races has invaded our Yangji sect, and they've actually brought a forbidden artifact from the ancient times. The great elders' expressions drastically, no longer able to remain as composed as before. Use the Emperor armament in the forbidden grounds quickly, and activate the encirclement of the 18 halls, a great elder called out. Without any hesitation, he shot off toward the forbidden grounds as fast as he could while the other great elders followed behind him. He wants to go activate the Emperor armament. Stop him! a cry rang out among the people of the 100 races. Immediately, a few of them broke from the group and pursued with lightning speed. However, this was still the lair of the Protector clan. There were many hidden dangers. The experts were suddenly stopped by a powerful sword chi that shot into the air, allowing the great elders to enter the forbidden ground successfully. We'll stop them from controlling the Emperor armament and keep them busy for as long as we can. A pursuing Saint King of the 100 races called out and charged into the forbidden grounds. He wanted to stop the Yangji sect great elders from activating the Emperor armament. Very soon, violent ripples of battle erupted in the forbidden grounds near the back of the independent space. The experts of the 100 races began fighting against the great elders in the forbidden grounds. On the other side, 2 Saint Kings at great perfection paved a path with the forbidden artifact. They lead a group of people as they hurried toward the divine hall in the center of the sect. During that time, saint rulers of the Yangji sect continuously flew up without any regard for themselves. They wanted to stop the advance of the 100 races, but they were all heavily injured without any exceptions. Most of their lives ended up dangling on a fine thread, while some of them were even killed off. After all, the people who attacked the Protector clans this time were all the experts of the Wasteland continent. No matter how powerful the Protector clans were, it was difficult to fend off all the Saint Kings of the 100 races. Now was especially the case. 3 Saint Kings of the Yangji sect had yet to return because of the beast furs, so there was only 4 experts who remained in the clan. Faced against enemies that outnumbered them several times over, they were not their opponents. Even in their own lair, as a Protector clan, it was difficult for them to repel the attack. Boom! The entire space violently shook as violent energy shot into the sky, almost destroying the independent space. The group of Saint Kings had already began attacking the Divine Hall with their powerful forbidden artifact. They had found out that the beast fur was stored in the Divine Hall long ago. The power of a forbidden artifact was enough to take on an Emperor armament from a Protector clan. The strike was like a Saint Emperor's attack, creating a huge thick crack along the Divine Hall of the Yangji sect. At this moment, a great pressure forcefully pressed down from the sky. 18 mountainous Divine Halls appeared in empty space and began to fall with extremely vast ripples of energy and terrifying pressures. Each and every single Divine Hall was made by a Saint Emperor. They were left behind by the Saint Emperor ancestors of the Yangji sect, creating an extremely powerful defensive formation to protect the Yangji sect. The 18 Divine Halls shined with a blinding light as the Divine Hall's energy circulated within them. The light formed an extremely obscure connection between all the Divine Hall, joining all 18 as one and strengthening their defense. It's the Yangji sect's encirclement of the 18 halls. This is their strongest defense, so don't get caught in it. Use the forbidden artifact to quickly smash through the encirclement. An old man who was controlling the forbidden artifact growled. Afterward, he assisted the other experts to send the forbidden artifact straight at the 18 divine halls in the sky. They struck out as hard as they could. The 100-meter-long saber fell as it emanated a dazzling light. It struck the 18 divine halls with an unstoppable force, but when they collided, no sound was produced at all. The might of the saber turned out to be like a rock thrown into the sea, absorbed by the 18 divine halls. A single forbidden artifact isn't enough to break through the defense. Everyone pour their strength and activate the second forbidden artifact. One of the people in control of the first forbidden artifact called out. Immediately, a vast, violent energy rippled in the surroundings. The second forbidden artifact was activated by the people of the 100 races. It was a pitch-black war hammer, controlled by a dwarven Saint King, and assisted by 3 other people. The black war hammer was not big. In fact, it could be described as exquisite. It was only 30 centimeters long, but it radiated with a presence that did not match up to its size at all. It turned into a black streak of light as it shot into the sky. The hammer and saber worked together, gathering the force of 2 forbidden artifacts to strike the 18 divine halls together. Finally, the amount of energy that the divine halls could absorb was reached, and with a rumble, all the divine halls violently shook. Tiny cracks appeared on each divine hall. However, Since the 18 divine halls shared their power, the cracks healed very quickly. The encirclement of the 18 halls continued to press down. Its tremendous might caused the space below to twist, as if it were about to shatter. Even saint emperors will struggle to break free once caught in the encirclement of the 18 halls. We need to use the forbidden artifacts to keep it at bay and prevent them from descending. Everyone else entered the divine hall of the Protector clan and seized the beast fur. Ordered an expert among the 100 races. The remaining people immediately left the group. One of them drew the third forbidden artifact, striking the central divine hall under the support of several people. He smashed through the outer walls and made it to the interior. Almost the moment they stepped in, the various powerful formations were activated within the divine hall. Although they could kill off Saint Kings, they were nothing before the forbidden artifacts of the 100 races. A violent rumble rang out from the back of the independent space, as a mountain turned to dust in an instant. The several Saint Kings that had gone over to keep the great elders busy all flew back as they vomited blood. At the same time, an extremely terrifying ripple of energy appeared there. Shit, the Emperor armament has been awoken. Everyone else head over. We need to stop it from fully awakening with everything we have. We don't have a fourth forbidden artifact, said an expert of the 100 races. He was extremely serious. At that moment, all the experts of the 100 races worked extremely well together. The experts that had entered the divine hall stepped out without saying anything else, and rushed over to where the Emperor armament was. Only the experts controlling the forbidden artifact stayed behind to break through the obstructions of the divine hall, and to retrieve the beast fur. An ancient, 30-odd-meter-long sword stood in the forbidden grounds of the Yangji sect. Layers of inscriptions flashed in the surroundings, glowing with a blinding light. In the surroundings, the 4 great elders of the Yangji sect sat with their legs crossed and eyes closed. 2 of them wore tattered clothes with blood at the corner of their lips, while the other 2 were also pale. They were all rather injured. A hazy glow enveloped the 4 of them from the ancient sword. The light seemed like nothing, but it contained an unimaginable strength. It could repel any foreign attacks while the 4 of them activated the ancient sword. Rise! Suddenly, the 4 great elders all called out in unison. They suddenly pressed their hands against the formations on the ground, and copious amounts of energy unceasingly poured out, causing the inscriptions to become blinding. The Emperor armament began to violently tremble, as a frighteningly vast energy pulsed around it. Afterward, the Emperor armament began to slowly rise out of the earth. The vast pressure became denser and more powerful. It was like a primordial beast slowly waking up from its slumber. Chapter 1104. Power of an Emperor armament. God damn it. The power of the Protector clan's Emperor armament seems much more powerful than in the records. We need to suppress the Emperor armament quickly. We can't let it be drawn from the ground. A person cried out from afar, and the group that had separated from the central divine hall had arrived. They all arrived above the ancient sword, striking at the sword's hilt in unison to prevent the sword from being drawn. The sword slowly sank by a little. With that, the 4 great elders of the Yangji sect looked at each other, before spitting out a mouthful of essence blood at the Emperor armament, which led to an even more violent eruption of the Emperor armament's energy, and it stopped sinking. It began to be pulled out bit by bit once more, but it was much slower than before. 20 experts of the 100 races called out together, as they used everything they had to suppress the Emperor armament. However, the weapon's power had far exceeded their imaginations, so even with all of them, they could not prevent the Emperor armament from being drawn. God damn it, put some strength into it. The Saint Kings of the 100 races all yelled out furiously. They all knew that the moment the sword's true powers erupted would be it was drawn. However, they could not stop it even when they used everything within them. All they could do was delay it by some time. The space of the Protector clan began to tremble more and more violently. Great thick cracks littered the space around, slicing the space into a bunch of shapes. The independent space of the Yangji sect was approaching its limits, while the World Gate had been opened long ago. Many people hurriedly fled through it. Booms constantly rang out as the two forbidden artifacts fended off the encirclement of the 18 halls. The forbidden artifacts constantly struck out, preventing the 18 halls from descending, while the third forbidden artifact continuously worked its way through all the obstacles in the central divine hall, charging toward the location of the beast fur. The important divine hall that held all the power had already been reduced to a mess after standing for countless years in the Yangji sect. The four elders did everything they could to draw the emperor armament in the forbidden groans. 20 Saint Kings levitated above it, suppressing it together, but all they could do was slow it down from being drawn. As the emperor armament was slowly drawn out of the ground, the sword tip grew closer and closer to the surface of the earth. The experts of the 100 races could only panic even more with the current situation. The emperor armament's too powerful. We can't last much longer. Hurry up. One of the people suppressing the emperor armament yelled out. It was very loud, and was heard by those who controlled the forbidden artifact in the central divine hall. The experts in the divine hall had already reached the top floor with their third forbidden artifact. They stopped before a heavy stone door, and above the stone door was a simple word, carved deeply: treasury. The beast fur is in there. Let's use the forbidden artifact to quickly break through this door, called out a Saint King. Then, all of them pooled their strength together to constantly strike the door with the weapon. However, the door was extremely tough, and only a tiny crack appeared after 3 attacks from the forbidden artifact. Don't stop. We need to give everything we have and use all the power in the forbidden artifact. One of them yelled out. Immediately, he poured whatever strength he had left into the forbidden artifact. Under the desperate push from the great elders, the ancient sword was finally drawn from the ground against the resistance of 20 Saint Kings. Its tip was clearly revealed under the sunlight, and immediately, a boundless presence gushed forth. All the Saint Kings of the 100 races felt their hearts tighten. The 4 great elders continuously formed hand seals, using a secret technique to control the emperor armament. A terrifying ripple of energy immediately erupted from the emperor armament, knocking away all the Saint Kings above it. Afterward, the emperor armament made half a turn in the air, causing its hilt to face the ground. The 4 great elders just happened to be standing below the hilt. Experts of the 100 races, I'll make you pay a good price for invading our Yangji sect. A great elder furiously roared out. The 4 of them controlled the emperor armament together, as they swung it toward the 20 Saint Kings, with a devastating might. The emperor armament was much more powerful than the forbidden artifacts. With a single stroke, space was immediately annihilated, and the whole place began to crumble. The independent space could no longer withstand the attack. The 4 great elders dismissed all other thoughts. All they wanted to do was slaughter all the experts of the 100 races to wash away the disgrace. The 20 Saint Kings' expressions all drastically. They were frightened by the presence of the emperor armament, as an invisible and mysterious force trapped them. Their movements became sluggish, as if they were stuck in mud. Do not disperse, everyone. Gather together and use your strongest attack to repel the emperor armament, or we're all dead. A member of the 100 races yelled out. The surrounding energy began to surge, and a 100-meter-tall giant appeared behind him. The figure was covered with muscles, filled with explosive force. This was a ruler of the giants. He was renowned, and was once an extremely terrifying Saint Emperor, supreme among the giants. He was an avatar conjured by a giant through a secret technique. At the same time, another 100-meter-tall avatar appeared. It was a beauty who seemed to be in her 20s, radiating with an otherworldly presence. She seemed to have transcended mortal affairs. She was divine and noble, while 6 clear wings stood behind her. She was the elder goddess that had always only existed in the legends. She had never appeared throughout history, so no one knew whether she had actually existed or not. The other experts all began to use abilities and secret techniques to conjure their ancestors shortly after, working together to repel the emperor armament. Several ancestors of various races and figures from various folklore were conjured by energy. They varied in appearance, but they all possessed a vast and tremendous energy to repel the emperor armament. The emperor armament swung out in front of them, colliding with the various secret technique and abilities with an unstoppable force. As the two supreme energies collided, the sky began to shake. The independent space collapsed at a faster and faster rate. The avatars conjured by the experts were all destroyed, and they all vomited blood as a result. They flew back uncontrollably, all now heavily injured. The power of a Protector clan's Emperor armament was just too great. Only Saint Emperors could rival it. So it was not enough even when all of them worked together. In the center of the sect, several Saint Kings continued to use the forbidden artifacts to deal with the encirclement of the 18 halls. At that moment, the 18 divine halls suddenly began to shine with a blinding light, and a powerful but gentle energy poured out from them. This energy fused into the space, temporarily stabilizing its collapse. The Emperor armament was levitating again in the forbidden grounds. It radiated with a frightening might as it charged toward the 20 people under the control of the 4 great elders. Let's not take it head-on. Let's go. Personally experiencing the power of the Emperor armament, the 20 Saint Kings no longer wanted to face it head-on. They all fled in the direction of the forbidden artifacts. The Emperor armament pursued them as it flailed about with a devastating pressure. We'll send a forbidden artifact to fend off the Emperor armament, the Saint King at great perfection said as he controlled the saber. He directed the saber with his companion to face off against the Emperor armament. The forbidden artifact collided with the Emperor armament with incomparable force. This was a clash between the two strongest weapons of the two races. With a boom, the two weapons brutally struck each other. The devastating ripple of energy was undoubtedly terrifying, causing the realm around them to collapse even though it had just been stabilized. The forbidden artifact was knocked back in the clash, and the two Saint Kings at great perfection both vomited blood. They stumbled back, now heavily injured. The encirclement of the 18 halls gave up on trapping the group of people from the 100 races. They flew high up into the air and fell in 18 different locations. Their powers were connected and enforced one another, so they were one whole unit, forcefully stabilizing the independent space. They stopped the space from collapsing any further. The second forbidden artifact was freed up since the 18 divine halls stopped attacking. Now 2 forbidden artifacts could fend off the Emperor armament. They were embroiled in a tough struggle where they were equally matched. The surrounding space became extremely tough with the protection of the 18 divine hall, forcefully receiving the terrifying residual energy from the battle between the 3 weapons. At this moment, 3 loud whistles shot through the air. The 3 great elders had returned. They shot past the light barrier from the Emperor armament and fused their strength with the other 4, resulting in 7 people controlling the Emperor armament. Even the great elders had no idea just how powerful their Emperor armament was, since even when they all worked together, they could not utilize its full power. However, the Emperor armament would be able to display greater power, with more people controlling it. The Emperor armament's presence immediately skyrocketed with the additional 3 great elders. It suppressed the 2 forbidden artifacts. We need to endure it. They will suffer great backlashes from using the Emperor armament, so they can't last for very long, explained a Saint King of the 100 races. They knew the weaknesses of the Protector clan's Emperor armaments extremely well. The power of the Emperor armament far exceeds our expectations. If I had known earlier, I would have brought the War God Hall. A hall elder of the War God Hall regretfully lamented. And the Elven God Tree. If we had brought the Elven God Tree, we could have bound the Emperor armament and prevented it from displaying such great power. An Elven expert gnashed his teeth. And the Heaven's Guard personally forged by our dwarven ancestor. Even Saint Emperors can't smash through the shield. If it was here, we might have been able to block the Emperor armament, said a dwarven expert. In ancient times, the 100 races was far more powerful than the humans. Even after losing a large number of experts from the invasion of the magical beasts, they were still able to beat the humans into constant retreat. If it were not for Mo Tianyan, the Tianyuan continent would have switched owners long ago. Their former strength was obvious, so they had quite a few treasures that had been passed down from that age. They had only brought offensive forbidden artifacts this time, not a single defensive one at all. Chapter 1105. Founding ancestor of the Tyrant's Blade School. At this moment, the experts in the central divine hall charged out. They yelled out, "The items with us. All right, leave immediately." A hall elder of the war god hall immediately ordered a retreat, and they gathered together soon after. They used the 3 forbidden artifact to cover themselves from the emperor armament, so everyone could leave. The Saint Kings of the 100 races made it out of the independent space, inhabited by the Yangji sect, and immediately ripped open a space gate to leave. The great elders did not want to let them go so easily, so they pursued them and controlled the emperor armament. However, they were unable to stop them. The burly middle-aged man, Guihai Dao, sat boldly atop the wave-breaking blade within the forbidden grounds of the Tyrant's Blade School. With his eyes closed, the pure energy hidden within the emperor armament flowed unceasingly into him. Guihai Dao had been absorbing the energy within the emperor armament since he had returned, so he improved extremely quickly. He had already reached the 3rd heavenly layer of Saint King, which was a stunning rate. Suddenly, Guihai Dao snapped open his eyes. His gaze seemed to be able to pierce space, to be able to see the world outside. His eyes flickered with visible sparks the moment he had opened them. Although Guihai Dao was only at the 3rd heavenly layer, he carried an unfathomable feeling about him. Suddenly, the world inhabited by the Tyrant's Blade School began to violently tremble. A huge spatial crack appeared as the independent space was ripped open by a supreme force. A group of 100 races Saint Kings charged in with a forbidden artifact. The bell of the Protector clan reverberated loudly through the entire clan. The whole Protector clan had become especially alert after Guihai Dao's return. They were afraid that the news would break out before their founding ancestor had fully recovered his strength and, hence, lead to the attack of enemies. As soon as everyone heard the bell, they gathered their focus and emerged from their dwellings at the same time. Even a few experts in seclusion immediately came out. The great elders in the central divine hall all walked out sternly. Their faces changed drastically when they noticed the identities of the invaders. They cried out, "Shit, it's the 100 races. They must have known that our founding ancestor has come back. They must want to eliminate our ancestor before he has fully recovered. I never thought that the 100 races would be so well informed. It must be because of the other Protector clans. They don't want our ancestor to recover and thus surpass them. We need to use everything we've been storing up and protect the ancestor no matter what. We'd rather die than have our ancestor be threatened." The great elders revealed their thoughts as determination flooded their eyes. At that moment, all of them had stopped considering their own lives. The invading Saint Kings used a forbidden artifact to pave a path toward the central divine hall. The 6 great elders all took control of a divine hall, flying threateningly toward the invaders. The great elders could not just charge up in a desperate struggle against so many Saint Kings. All they could do was use the resources of the Protector clan. The 6 divine halls all became 1,000 meters long, standing fearlessly like a mountain in front of the Saint Kings that charged over. "Use the forbidden artifacts to break through their divine halls," an expert yelled out. Immediately, another 3 forbidden artifacts were activated. This party had brought 4 in total. Although the forbidden artifacts were not as powerful as the emperor armaments of the Protector clans, they were still weapons of former Saint Emperors that had been passed down since ancient times. Each forbidden artifact was controlled by 2 to 5 Saint Kings, and every time one of them struck out, the attack was no weaker than a Saint Emperor's attack. Boom! With a deafening sound, the 4 forbidden artifacts viciously landed on 4 divine halls. Rock was thrown into the air, and a huge crack appeared on the tough divine halls. "We don't have much time, so we need to move fast. Use the 4 forbidden artifacts together to attack a single divine hall and destroy one of them," ordered an expert who controlled a forbidden artifact. The 3 forbidden artifacts all changed their targets. At that moment, the 4 weapons all targeted a single divine hall and struck out as hard as they could. With a boom, the divine hall was shattered into pieces. Fragments were launched into the sky, and the great elder within it shot toward a nearby divine hall. However, before the great elder could approach the divine hall, a vast presence locked onto him. It caused the space around him to freeze at that moment. A Saint King of the 100 races much more powerful than him had begun attacking him, heavily injuring him in just a few strikes. At the same time, the 4 forbidden artifacts worked together again. A powerful ripple of energy shot toward the second divine hall. A single forbidden artifact could produce attacks no weaker than a Saint Emperor. So when the 4 weapons attacked together, their power multiplied. Regular divine halls could not withstand a single attack. At this moment, an extremely powerful blade chi appeared in the forbidden grounds of the Protector clan. A 30-meter-long machete flew out with lightning speed, receiving the attacks from the 4 forbidden artifacts. The machete and 4 forbidden artifacts clashed in the air, producing a deafening boom. Terrifying ripples of energy spread from high up, sweeping in all directions in the form of a storm. They ripped through space, creating a huge space crack, and causing the entire realm to tremble. It actually began to collapse. Blocked by the machete, the 4 forbidden artifacts flew back to the space above their controllers. The machete was stabbed into the ground with its tip down. It radiated with a supreme presence, as if it was the king of the world. Not only did the machete block the 4 forbidden artifacts and protect a divine hall, it deterred all the Saint Kings as well. That's the Emperor armament of the Protector clan. No, why is the power so much more powerful than what was mentioned in the records? A Saint King hoarsely asked as he stared at the machete. The records have mentioned that there needs to be several Saint Kings, using a secret technique together, to utilize the Emperor armament. They need to go through quite a long process as well. So the way it has appeared is completely different from the records, said a hall elder. Doubt filled him inside. The 5 divine halls controlled by the Great Elders levitated high in the sky. The Great Elders appeared at the main entrance of the divine halls, as they sternly stared at the wave-breaking blade. Worry filled all of them. They knew that their founding ancestor, who had been cultivating in the forbidden grounds, had struck out. However, he had yet to fully recover his strength, so how could he be an opponent of the 100 races? This made the Great Elders worry for their founding ancestor's safety. The space there constantly trembled as pitch-black cracks crisscrossed in the sky. The space was collapsing. At this moment, a figure emerged from the forbidden grounds. He walked in the air without any presence, just like an ordinary person, but every step of his would cover 1,000 meters. He moved steadily. He was Guihai. Under the attention of all the invading Saint Kings, he calmly emerged before sitting down on the hilt of the Emperor armament. He calmly gazed past the invaders at ease, as if they were nothing important. Afterward, he pointed a finger at the sky and 18 divine halls immediately appeared out of nowhere. Each one radiated with a vast pressure. They connected with one another and shared their powers, as if they were just one. They then fused into the space at 18 different locations, rapidly stopping the collapse of the space, and the parts that had crumbled slowly healed back together. All the invaders became stern. Although Guihaidao's presence was not very powerful, he possessed a feeling where he was in control of everything. It made them astounded, oddly enough. This was because even Saint Emperors could not give off this feeling. Who are you? A Saint King asked with a deep voice. He glared at Guihaidao, while the Great Elders who controlled the divine halls were ignored by everyone. I am Guihaidao, he said with an extremely calm voice. But the invaders felt an unfathomable feeling below this calm surface. Even the Saint Kings at great perfection of the Protector clans would pale if they had to face 4 forbidden artifacts and so many Saint Kings. It just did not make sense why Guihai could remain so calm. It doesn't matter who he is. Let's do it together. We need to retrieve the item no matter how severe the consequences are, yelled a Saint King controlling a forbidden artifact. He immediately directed a slash toward Guihai that radiated with a terrifying energy. At the same time, the 3 other forbidden artifacts struck out as well. They all attacked the sitting Guihai from different directions with devastating power. Guihai did not falter. He suddenly levitated while the 30-meter-long wave-breaking blade shrank to 1.5 meters long and rested in his hand. At that moment his entire presence changed. A surging blade chi radiated from him, and he no longer seemed ordinary. Instead he seemed more like a drawn blade. His great presence caused the sky to shake, and the terrifying blade Qi crisscrossed the empty space. Chapter 1106. Scaring off the 100 races. The wave-breaking blade was alight with a dazzling glow as a dense layer of blade Qi engulfed Guihai Dao. He was protected by the Emperor Armament's power. Guihai Dao began to move. He slowly swung the weapon in his hand. Its movement contained the mysteries of space and the truths of the world. It seemed to be weak, but it possessed unimaginable might. It struck the 4 forbidden artifacts at the same time. Ding! 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 With 4 metallic sounds, just a single swing from Guihai Dao blocked the attacks of the 4 forbidden artifacts at the same time. Each forbidden artifact was no weaker than a Saint Emperor, so Guihai Dao's attack had blocked something equivalent to 4 Saint Emperors. Guihai Dao did not use his own power, but the power within the Emperor Armament. The wave-breaking blade was his own weapon, so even after fusing with the power of over 100 Emperor armaments, he could still control it like one of his limbs. He could also use all of the power hidden inside, and would not suffer backlashes like other people. The 4 forbidden artifacts were all sent flying. The Saint Kings of the 100 races used a lot of force before regaining control. Once more, while the Emperor armament remained steady in Guihai Dao's hand. Over 100 Emperor armaments had been fused into a Protector clan's Emperor armament, so they were incomparable to the forbidden artifacts. Just from this aspect of strength, the Emperor armaments from the Protector clans were far, far more powerful than Saint Emperors. The Emperor armament is too powerful. Let's fuse the 4 forbidden artifacts, and use the Blood's mark to break through with force, suggested a hall elder. With that, the controllers of the other 3 forbidden artifacts did not show any hesitation. The forbidden artifacts immediately gathered together before their controllers all spat out a mouthful of essence blood, allowing the weapons to skyrocket in power. They immediately became weakened after spitting out the mouthful of blood. Not only did it contain their essence, it also contained some of their vitality. It was a self-cannibalizing method to obtain more power. The terrifying energy pulsed from the 4 forbidden artifacts like dragons soaring into the sky. The 4 weapons then charged toward Guihai Dao in a devastating fashion. The space they passed would shatter like mirrors. Even the 18 divine halls stabilizing the space could not withstand the attacks that were originally enough to devastate the whole place. Guihai Dao remained as usual, and he uncaringly said, "100 races, with me, Guihai Dao present, you won't even be able to shake the foundations of the Tyrant's Blade School. You should leave." As he said that, Guihai Dao suddenly tossed the wave-breaking blade into the air. As soon as it left his hand, it immediately expanded to be 100 meters long, shooting toward the 4 weapons with a terrifying glow. There were no violent sounds when the wave-breaker blade collided with the 4 forbidden artifacts. However, they both froze in the air where the edge of the Emperor armament stopped a meter from the forbidden artifacts. The 2 supreme forces pushed against one another. The space between the 5 weapons had already been reduced to darkness. It did not close up even after a long time while the surrounding several hundred meters of space distorted violently, all turning into a blur. "People of the 100 races, do you still want to keep fighting?" Guihai Dao floated in the air calmly and completely composed. Although his personal strength was nothing in the eyes of the invading Saint Kings, he could control the Emperor armament like another arm, and stop all of them just by himself. All the invaders fell silent. They were shocked by the strength of the Emperor armament. They knew that they had not fallen to the hands of Guihai Dao this battle, but to the Emperor armament. The people who did not control forbidden artifacts looked at one another when they saw how the Emperor armament and forbidden artifacts were locked in a stalemate. They all charged at Guihai Dao in unison, as if they were thinking the same thing. "Protect the founding ancestor." The great elders all began to move as well. They returned to the control centers of the divine halls, and piloted the divine halls down, smashing toward the invaders. Guihai Dao gently sighed. "Looks like you're stubborn." Gently extending a finger, a few powerful blades of light shot from the wave-breaking blade. They chopped toward the charging Saint Kings with unbelievable speed in the form of white lights. The blades of light contained the might of a Saint Emperor, and they were sharp enough to cut through space. They were unimaginably powerful, such that the Saint Kings could not block or dodge them. Spurt, before the divine halls had fallen, the blades of light passed through their bodies. All that was left was an extremely thin crack in their chests. There was not a drop of blood at all. This was because all the blood in the wound had evaporated the instant the blades of light had passed through them. The Saint Kings were all drastically shocked. They immediately lowered their heads to inspect their chests, and they paled as a result. They could feel that their organs had silently disappeared, but what terrified them was that they did not feel any pain. "I don't want to kill you, or you would have been dead already," Gui Haidao leisurely said as he looked at them calmly. The Saint Kings all stumbled back in fright with that. At that moment, they finally understood just how terrifying the middle-aged man was, even though he did not seem much stronger than them. Gui Haidao then looked at the Saint Kings in charge of the forbidden artifacts. He helplessly shook his head and gently said, "Wave-breaking blade, after so many years, so many Emperor armaments have fused with you. Your power far exceeds regular Emperor armaments now, so erupt. Show them your power." A gleam of light flashed through Gui Haidao's eyes, and the next moment, an indescribably vast power erupted from within the wave-breaking blade. It immediately disrupted the stalemate with the 4 forbidden artifacts, jolting them far off into the distance. They collided into 4 mountains in the distance, turning them into dust. The terrifying energy continued to spread toward the people in control. They were all knocked back as well, and were unable to stabilize themselves. A sharp blade chi was also present in the ripple of energy. It passed through their bodies and heavily wounded them all. All the experts spat blood at the sky as they became sheet white. They had never been so shocked in their lives. 30 Saint Kings with plenty at great perfection, coupled with 4 forbidden artifacts, were actually not enough to deal with the Emperor armament of a protector clan. This was unbelievable. Impossible. This is impossible. This is definitely impossible. Emperor armaments of protector clans cannot be this powerful, a hall elder cried out. He was badly shaken. Disbelief was spelled out on his face. He had studied the Emperor armaments of the 10 protector clans in the records of the War God Hall, so he had an extremely deep understanding in regards to their strength. That's only because the people who control the Emperor armament are others and not the owner. They obviously can't utilize the true power of the Emperor armament. Even Saint Emperors can't. Gui Haidao said indifferently as he stood with his arms crossed. The wave-breaking blade had shrunk once more, and had been stabbed into the ground beside him. It radiated with a supreme presence. The people of the 100 races did not understand what Gui Haidao meant. They refused to believe him to be the founding ancestor of the Tyrant's Blade School, and the true owner of the Emperor armament. "Retreat!" A Saint King at great perfection waved his hand, and decisively retreated. The other experts of the 100 races dared not to stick around. They all glanced at the weapon by Gui Haidao with lingering fear before all leaving. They knew that their opponent had shown mercy, or he could have easily killed off all of them. The invaders swiftly retreated, completely vanishing in the blink of an eye. All that was left was a huge mess, evidence of what had happened before. "Founding ancestor, the 100 races have actually tried to invade our protector clan. They've gone too far, so why not make them stay? Founding ancestor, why not kill off all of them? If they all die, it'll be a great loss for the 100 races." The great elders all arrived beside Gui Haidao, and asked him courteously after the invaders had retreated. They were all confused, and at the same time, they were filled with shock. They have never imagined that their founding ancestor would be so terrifying, before he had even recovered his strength. Gui Haidao gently shook his head and said, "The 100 races aren't as simple as you think they are. The ones who support them are very powerful, such that we cannot afford to provoke them. Remember to be careful in the future, and avoid taking the 100 races on as enemies." The great elders became even more doubtful with that explanation. One of them said, "Founding ancestor, the 10 protector clans along with Mercenary City are the most powerful organizations on the Tianyuan continent. The Beast God continent has their 3 Saint Emperors and the Beast God Hall, but that doesn't mean we can't match up to them. The Sea race only guards their own territory and never fights with us. I just don't understand what exactly supports the 100 races that we need to fear. It's better for you to not know some things. If you do want to know, I will tell you if you surpass Saint Emperor and reach the origin realm. With that, Guihai Dao returned to the Forbidden Grounds with the wave-breaking blade, leaving the great elders standing there puzzled. The Yangji sect and the Tyrant's Blade School were not the only protector clans to suffer attacks from the 100 races. There were also the Shenxiao sect, the Patian sect, the Heaven's Incense School, and the Moyuan clan. However, the 100 races managed to get to all the other central divine halls, except for the Tyrant's Blade School, who managed to repel them. Their beast furs were stolen, and they suffered great losses. The great elders of the Yangji sect and Patian sect all suffered intense backlashes, which they struggled to recover from due to activating their emperor armaments. The great elders of the Shenxiao sect, Heaven's Incense School, and Moyuan clan were all stopped by the invaders before they could get to their forbidden grounds, so they could only defend using divine halls. In the end, the invading Saint Kings smashed through several divine halls, where quite a few great elders dangled in danger. The Saint Kings in danger used secret techniques to flee into the encirclement of the 18 halls in the end. Chapter 1107. Attacking Mercenary City, the 8 parties from the 100 races attacked 6 protector clans, and managed to retrieve 5 beast furs from them, as well as the 2 that had been scattered across the continent. They managed to take back 7 pieces in total. After that, the 8 parties still were not satisfied. They gathered once more outside Mercenary City, using the forbidden artifacts to attack the city from above. Each party possessed 2 to 4 forbidden artifacts, so over 20 of them ravaged Mercenary City. The terrifying ripples of energy caused the earth to shake and the space to collapse. Mercenary City was immediately closed off from the attack of outsiders. Grand Elder Tianjian personally led a group of elders to the city from their independent space, but when they saw over 200 Saint Kings outside the barrier, they all became extremely stern. This was almost all the Saint Kings of the 100 races. Mercenary City was indeed very powerful, since it was the only organization that could rival the 10 protector clans. However, it would have been a futile attempt if they tried to repel all the Saint Kings of the 100 races just by themselves. Mercenary City was not in possession of a powerful emperor armament like the 10 protector clans. All they had was a divine hall with offensive capabilities from Mo Tianyin, but it could only be piloted by Saint Emperors. The attack from the 100 races with more than 20 forbidden artifacts shocked all the upper echelon of Mercenary City. All their known elders were mobilized. The 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th elders were all Saint Kings of the 8th or 9th heavenly layer, while the 6th, 7th, and 8th elders were all Saint Kings as well. The weakest one of them was at the 5th heavenly layer. All known Saint King elders of Mercenary City had appeared at that moment, sternly staring at the sky. At the same time, 6 disheveled, beggar-like old men in hemp clothing emerged from a space gate, from an extremely desolate independent space. Their messy hair covered their faces, so their appearances could not be seen clearly at all. Only a few deep wrinkles were exposed vaguely. Many elders of Mercenary City courteously glanced at the 6 beggar-like old men. They too were elders of Mercenary City, but they rarely ever appeared before people and never interfered with any matters of the city. They always remained secluded in an independent space, which was why almost no one knew about their existence. It's Elder Kubai and the others. I never thought they'd still be alive. I heard the 6 elders were people who came from the same era as Grand Elder Tianjian, and that they're even older than the Grand Elder. They're all at great perfection, and are only alive now because they've extended their lives by 200 years through the use of 10,000-year-old heavenly resources. However, they only have 100 years left, explained an elderly Saint King elder. Nowadays, it was extremely difficult to reach Saint Emperor. The various Saint Emperors were gradually whittled down, with the 10 protector clans and Mercenary City experiencing the decline the most. They had always had Saint Emperors since the ancient times, where a new Saint Emperor would be born immediately after another had passed away. However, it had already been over 10,000 years since a Saint Emperor had appeared for the 10 protector clans and mercenary city. The only Saint Emperor was the Path Lord of Carnal Desires, an exile of the Pure Heart Pavilion. He had only reached Saint Emperor after creating his Path of Carnal Desires. As a result, Saint Kings at Great Perfection were almost invincible in the present day that lacked Saint Emperors. Including Tianjian, 7 Saint Kings at Great Perfection had appeared this time. This hidden strength was far greater than any protector clan. The 6 beggar-like Saint Kings stood beside each other. They did not radiate any presences, as if they were fused with the surroundings. They seemed to be like a world of their own where they reigned supreme. A heavy pressure would radiate from them unconsciously. Their eyes shined like torches. Although they all seemed ancient, they were brimming with energy. Their sharp gazes were like swords, causing the space before them to slightly twist. Has the 100 races gone crazy to attack our mercenary city? Looks like the 100 races find their days too peaceful. We can't let them do this. Summon all the experts immediately, and send them to suppress the 100 races. A few Saint Ruler elders of Mercenary City all righteously discussed the situation. They were utterly furious. The Saint Kings of Mercenary City all silently stared at the 100 races as they attacked the barrier. But a cold light flickered in their eyes. The 100 races had sent over 200 experts this time, and they were all Saint Kings. They had even brought over 20 forbidden artifacts. This was not something the dozen or so Saint Kings of Mercenary City could repel. All they could do was use what had been passed down from ancient times. They can't break through the barrier. Even Saint Emperors can't conquer Mercenary City. Immediately contact the 10 protector clans, the ancient clans, and the people of the 3 great empires. The experts of the 100 races have boldly invaded, so get them to provide reinforcements immediately. We need to defend our continent's dignity, Tianjian said. He was extremely composed. Yes, Grand Elder. The news of the 100 races invasion was sent to the protector clans, ancient clans, and 3 great empires through secret techniques, which immediately lead to a huge disturbance. The 4 protector clans that had not been attacked, the Yuan sect, the Heartless School, the Changyang clan, and the Pure Heart Pavilion, sent all their experts, directly ripping open space gates to provide reinforcements. The 5 protector clans that had had their beast furs stolen were even more straightforward. They all dragged their injured bodies over to Mercenary City with their emperor armaments, swearing to fight the 100 races to the death. After breaking into their central divine halls, not only did the 100 races take the beast furs, they even ransacked them, robbing them of a large amount of treasure. They suffered an extremely severe loss. The ancient clans and 3 great empires all sent Saint Kings for reinforcement. Only the people from the Tyrant's Blade School did not appear. At the same time, the barrier of Mercenary City displayed its might as well. It began to glow brighter than usual. It did not begin to attack the invaders, but instead rebounded all the attacks that landed on it. The forbidden artifacts were treasures passed down from ancient times. They were the weapons of former Saint Emperors, and they were so powerful that several Saint Kings were needed to control just one. Each weapon could use attacks at the level of Saint Emperors, so a rebound from the barrier was equivalent to the 100 races, sustaining the attacks from over 20 Saint Emperors. The Saint Kings of the 100 races were shocked, and immediately used their forbidden artifacts to block the rebounding attacks. The attacks threw them into confusion, where the weaker people sustained rather heavy wounds from the violent ripples of battle. We can't conquer Mercenary City. Retreat! An expert of the 100 races gave a decisive order. All the reinforcements had arrived, so they knew that if they stayed any longer, there would be a vicious battle. The casualties would be innumerable. All the experts of the 100 races did not become too absorbed in battle. Before the reinforcements could completely encircle them, they ripped open space gates and left. The 100 races had retreated out of the Tianyuan continent, but the disturbance they had caused this time was undoubtedly gigantic. Although it did not affect the medium or low-level cultivators, it shocked all the high-level experts. The 5 protector clans that had been ransacked were impacted and fell into a fury. Their anger and killing intent reached an utmost limit, swearing to mobilize the entire continent to wipe out the 100 races. Soon afterward, representatives of all the major organizations on the continent held a meeting that had not occurred in several tens of thousands of years. They sternly discussed the invasion of the 100 races, and over half of them suggested gathering all of the continent's power to devastate the 100 races and wash away their shame. Only a few people suggested that everyone should consider the big picture and not mobilize everyone. It led to an extremely intense argument between both sides. In the end, a great elder from the Tyrant's Blade School came to Mercenary City and expressed that their protector clan would not be taking part in the expedition. He also explained that although the 100 races had weakened now, their heritage was extremely rich and no weaker than the Tianyuan continent. Once they invaded the 100 races, the overall strength of the continent would suffer and provide the Beast God continent with an opportunity. A great elder of the Pure Heart Pavilion followed up. The invasion of the 100 races this time was only to take back some items. They did not do anything overly outrageous, so why mobilize so many people? Do you really want a war between the two continents and make blood flow like rivers? Do you really only intend to stop after you see a sea of corpses? Afterward, a few representatives expressed their disagreement as well. They all had their reasons, which all considered the big picture. The Tianyuan continent's conquest of the 100 races came to an end. They failed to get everyone to agree. There was no chance of victory if just half the continent, or even less than that, went ahead to conquer the 100 races. The 100 races had settled down on the wasteland continent for so long. They could be described as deeply rooted and rich in heritage. Each race had their own supreme, forbidden artifacts. They had only brought a portion of them this time. Soon after, a secret letter arrived in the hands of each representative, shocking them all. After attacking Mercenary City, the experts of the 100 races actually attacked the Beast God Hall on the Beast God continent. All three magical beast Saint Emperors emerged, while the Tiger Emperor Lankyros faced the attacks from 3 different forbidden artifacts and was thus heavily injured. The several dozen experts cultivating within the hall all came out to fend off the enemies, and more than 10 of them were slain by the forbidden artifacts. There were even more who were injured. This battle included Saint Emperors. Over 200 Saint Kings of the 100 races fought an extremely intense battle with the various experts of the Beast God Hall, to the point where the earth cracked and the sky dimmed. Half the continent quaked, kicking up tsunamis that reached into the skies. All the experts cultivating outside could sense the heart-trembling might. However, the 100 races still failed to get into the Beast God Hall in the end. The Beast God Hall was no ordinary divine hall. It was left behind by the winged tiger god, and it was so tough that even Saint Emperors could not damage it. The invaders failed to even scratch the divine hall after striking it with the combined force of all the forbidden artifacts, and they lost over a dozen experts in the end, so they could only helplessly retreat. The invasion of the Beast God continent immediately shocked the upper echelons of the Tianyuan continent. No one had ever thought that the 100 races would be so reckless. First, they attacked the lairs of the Protector clans and Mercenary City, and then they invaded the Beast God continent. Were they seeking death? The Beast God continent was something that the Tianyuan continent feared very much. They had a total of 3 Saint Emperors. Was there any force daring enough to take them on? Chapter 1108. Jian Chen's worries. Not only did the large-scale invasion of the 100 races shake up the Tianyuan continent, even the Beast God continent was thrown astir. The invasions caused a huge disturbance. In the center of the Beast God continent, a radius of several hundred kilometers had disappeared into a huge ditch with the Beast God Hall as its center. The lapping of waves could vaguely be heard from the pitch-black ditch as the Beast God Hall levitated at the center. It used to be an ancient forest filled with great trees, but it had been reduced to a huge ditch during the battle between the Beast God Hall and the experts of the 100 races. The ground further away had sunk down. The burly Kaiser stood in a quiet hall on the 98th floor with a sunken expression. He gazed sharply into the distance as he burned with fury. That was the direction of the wasteland continent, inhabited by the 100 races. 100 races, you're getting bolder and bolder to act so brazenly around my beast god hall. If I weren't injured by origin energy and had recovered, just I myself would have been enough to flatten you. Kaiser growled as a heavy killing intent filled his voice. All the experts of the 100 races had returned to the wasteland continent. The central war god hall levitated in the air and radiated with an earth-shaking presence. It had already entered battle mode, ready to defend against the large-scale invasions from the Tianyuan continent and the beast god continent. The divine hall was the pillar of support of the 100 races, as well as their treasure. It was an amalgamation of attack and defense, and its defense was shocking. It was passed down from ancient times, and was far more powerful than any forbidden artifact. At the same time, all the experts returned to their own clans. All of their treasures were ready to be used. The dwarves had drawn their heaven's guard while the elves had awakened their elven god tree. All the various races were fully prepared to repel the attacks from the beast god continent and Tianyuan continent. The experts of the 100 races had already made the appropriate preparations before the arrival of the experts from the two continents. Although they were not as strong as any two of them, they still possessed their heritage. They did not fear an invasion from the two continents in this current age, where almost all Saint Emperors had vanished. The Heaven's Guard of the dwarves had been renowned in the ancient times. Back then, a single dwarven Saint King resisted the encirclement of multiple people, just as strong as him with the shield. Even Saint Emperors would struggle to break through such an encirclement. The elven god tree was extremely wondrous as well. It had already gained intelligence, having survived since ancient times. Its vast vitality had turned a portion of the wastelands into an oasis. It had always been the symbol of the elves, and its branches were supple enough to trap Saint Emperors, even though it had no offensive capabilities. Its vitality was unending as well. It could not be killed off nor cut down. Even when smashed into pieces, it could regrow in an instant. The only thing was that it could not leave where it had been rooted. The other races also had their corresponding heritages, and none of them could be underestimated. At the same time, the War God Hall used everything it had to scour the entire continent for the new War God. What they did not know was that the new War God had not been born on the Wasteland continent, but the Tianyuan continent. Only the first War God had been born on the Wasteland continent, which led to misunderstandings about where the new War God would be born. They assumed the new War God would be born on the Wasteland continent. The Dragon Island was completely cut off from the world, so the matters of the Tianyuan continent had not reached there. Jian Chun and He Yu remained by Tai Ta's side, watching over him and preventing any living corpses from interfering. Tai Ta bathed in a dense golden light. He was like the sun in the sky, shining brightly. He dyed the entire place with a golden light, as his vast battle intent filled the entire island. It possessed a supreme weight, as if it could crush the surrounding space. Some of the Saint Ruler living corpses were even pressed down to the ground by the power of the battle intent. Sounds that sounded like the roars of wild beasts rang out in the surroundings. Tai Ta's breakthroughs had caused too great of a disturbance, alarming all the living corpses on the island. Large groups of Saint King corpses rapidly flew over from all directions. They could endure the pressure of Tai Ta's battle intent. Swish! Swish! He Yu and Jian Che turned into a blur as they disappeared. They charged toward the Saint King corpses to engage in a slaughter, preventing them from approaching Tai Ta. He Yu was a mutated divine alligator. He was far more powerful than ordinary magical beasts, and could rival beasts of antiquity. He was also at the great perfection of Saint King, so the strength he possessed was terrifying. His palms struck out time and time again, crushing a Saint King corpse wherever they landed. Jian Chun did not use the Emperor armament. Chaotic force rampaged within him, as he used the advantage of the chaotic body as much as he could. He kicked and punched, launching all the living corpses beyond the 10-meter threshold. He used the powerful formations in the sky to slaughter the corpses, dealing with them in an effortless fashion. The deviant recovery of the living corpses would be enough to pain Jian Chun otherwise. Tai Ta seemed to have become a miniature sun, as his presence continuously climbed. He had already reached the third heavenly layer of Saint King. He had benefited substantially from the war god's blood, still in the process of absorbing it even now. On another side, Jianchen and He Yu had already finished dealing with the wave of Saint King living corpses. They returned to where they were. This was already the fourth wave. Suddenly, Taita's presence underwent another change. It actually strengthened several times over in that moment, while his battle intent became even denser. The fourth heavenly layer of Saint King. He's actually reached the fourth heavenly layer. Jianchen stood there and felt turbulent. He had watched Taita make his way from the fifth heavenly layer of Saint Ruler to the fourth heavenly layer of Saint King. This increase was far beyond what his chaotic body could offer by moving from one layer to the next. He Yu also became stunned as he stood to one side. He thought about all his cultivation in the past. He had spent countless hours to make each breakthrough. Yet Taita had matched over a millennium of his cultivation in such a short amount of time. He found it to be dreamlike. A great roar reverberated from the depths of the island, surprising Jianchen and He Yu. They both turned to look and saw a huge gate levitating high up in the sky, unaffected by the 10-meter threshold of the island. Several dragon heads that were 5 or 6 meters across hurried out of it, looking in the direction of Taita. Their faces were filled with deep worry as well as some fear. Class 9 dragon souls. Jianchen was shocked. They were existences equal to Saint Emperors. Coupled with the fact that dragons were the kings of magical beasts, their battle prowess was immense, much more powerful than human Saint Emperors of the same level. Fortunately, they did not charge over. They only glanced in Taita's direction before hurriedly pulling their heads back. They closed the gate to the necropolis, all extremely frightened. Jianchen let out a breath of relief. He knew that the dragon souls were figures that came from the same age as Erjin's. Since Erjin's blood was present here, he must have attacked Dragon Island in the past. The Class 9 dragon's souls must have suffered by his hands, and might have even been slain by Erjin's. As a result, they were extremely sensitive to Taita's presence as the new war god, and also felt extremely fearful. Finally, Taita's presence gradually weakened. The blinding light around him also quickly subsided before completely disappearing. Taita slowly opened his eyes, but he was not joyful because of his increase in strength. He was filled with sorrow and pain as 2 streaks of tears ran down his cheeks. The droplet of blood contained some of Erjin's memories. He learned about some of Erjin's past. They were both warring gods, so Erjin's had become a father figure in Taita's eyes. He felt extremely sorrowful, and was pained when he learned that Erjin suffered defeat at Dragon Island all those years ago, and was slain by the winged tiger god. Jianchen and He Yu made their way over as they observed Taita in interest. All they found was that Taita was rather similar compared to before, except that the glow of his skin had become even more metallic. It was glossy, as if it was made from metal, while the imprint between Taita's eyebrows had become clearer as well. However, the indent of the imprint gave people a feeling that it was incomplete, as if it lacked something. Taita, how are you? Are you all right? Jianchen asked out of concern as he stared at Taita's teary face. Taita dried his tears and quickly dismissed his feelings. He said, I'm fine. I just felt that Uncle Erjin's life was just too difficult. He fought for a better world for his citizens, but he died in battle in the end. Taita's voice was filled with deep grief. Jianchen gently sighed. He had no idea how to comfort Taita right now. The matter was interconnected far too much. Not only did it involve the enmity between the 100 races and the magical beasts, it included the disagreements between the winged tiger god and the war god. Yet in the present day, both of them had become his friends. He had no idea what to do. He worried the most over the possibility that all this enmity from the previous generation would be resolved by this current generation. Uncle Erjin's fought for his clansmen, but his wish did not come true in the end. His final wish was for his citizens to find a good place to live. I will definitely completely Uncle's final wish, said Taita. His eyes became determined. This was an oath he would never give up until he had achieved it. Jianchen became even more worried with the oath Taita made. His joy for Taita's increase in strength had completely disappeared, as well as he asked himself inside. If the matter really does develop to the point where Taita and Xiaobai end up fighting, What should I do? Taita wanted to find a better place for his citizens, to complete Erjin's final wish. This meant that he would definitely go to war like Erjins and capture land. On the other hand, the White Tiger was the god of the magical beasts. Although the Saint Emperors of the Beast God continent had targeted it before, Jianchen knew that the White Tiger would become the new beast god sooner or later. In the future, Taita might end up conflicting with the White Tiger, or even pulling the Tianyuan continent in as enemies. Sigh. I never thought that the droplet of blood would contain a part of Erjin's memories as well. Was it the right decision to bring Taita here? Jianchen asked himself inside. He suddenly felt some regret at that moment. Heiyu remained calm, and appeared to be indifferent. Although he was a magical beast, he had no attachments to the beast god continent. He did not care about what would happen between the beast god continent and 100 races at all. His greatest wish was to go with Rue Jin to find his vanished clansmen. Chapter 1109. The saint's fruit. Jianchen sucked in a deep breath, and no longer bothered with the troublesome problem. He only hoped that he had the power to stop the two of them, if a situation like that really developed. He did not ask Taita about the future. The world was in constant motion, so no one could decide what they would do in the future. Matters promised today might end up suddenly changing the next day. Jianchen stood on a low mountain peak, as he stared in the direction of the Linestrom pit for a while. He sighed. Let's return. Due to Taita's personality, he failed to notice the sliver of worry present on Jianchen's face. He talked and laughed excitedly with Jianchen as they made their way out. Jianchen, my strength has increased a lot this time. Do you think I still need to be locked up in Mercenary City by Senior Tianjian? Jianchen, how powerful are the 10 protector clans? Is my current strength enough to match up against them? Once we get back, I'll visit home first. I haven't returned in many years. I miss my family. Taita completely forgot about the sorrow and pain he felt for Erjin's death. It quickly dulled. He returned to how he usually behaved. Jianchen, Taita, and Heiyu did not stick around Dragon Island. They appeared outside the independent space again. Jianchen, a cold but feminine voice suddenly rang out. The sea goddess' illusionary body suddenly appeared in empty space. Her face was hazy, as if it was covered by mist. It was impossible to see her appearance. I greet your majesty. Jianchen immediately clasped his hands and bowed, after being slightly surprised. I greet senior. Heiyu and Taita dared not tarry behind. They also courteously bowed to the sea goddess. The sea goddess did not even glance at Heiyu. Her gaze stopped on Taita for a moment, before returning to Jianchen once more. She said, the saint's fruit of death nest is about to appear once more. This fruit is something that gathers the fortunes of the world, and can assist people in reaching Saint Emperor. It grows over the course of 10,000 years, blooms over the course of 10,000 years, bears fruit over the course of 10,000 years, and ripens over the course of another 10,000 years. In total, 40,000 years gives birth to a single fruit, and it only exists for 3 months once matured. It will disappear after 3 months are up. This fruit is about to mature, so you can't miss it. What? The saint's fruit can allow people to reach Saint Emperor? There's actually such a wondrous piece of fruit in the world. All three of them became astounded as disbelief flooded their faces. They would never have believed such a thing existed, if it were not for the sea goddess. The usefulness of the fruit sounded a little too exaggerated, since it could allow people to reach Saint Emperor. Even 100,000-year-old heavenly resources did not possess such great effects. The existence of the saint's fruit is an absolute secret on the Tianyuan continent. Only a limited number of ancient clans know about it, but all major organizations will focus on it whenever it appears. There have been saint emperors who have once taken part in the fight to obtain it, the sea goddess explained. Jianchen immediately became stern. Your Majesty, may I ask where exactly in Death Nest the fruit grows? Do you know the exact location? It's in the very depths of Death Nest. It's extremely dangerous there, so be very careful when you go. Even saint emperors can die there, replied the sea goddess. What? Even saint emperors can die? Both Jianchen and Heiyu became stunned. They struggled to believe that. Death Nest is a grave from ancient battlefields. During ancient times, many human, magical beast, and 100 races experts died there. The ground had once been dyed red with blood while corpses formed whole mountains. The amount of resentment that's piled up there is just shocking. And there's no lack of saint emperors who have fallen in the ancient battlefield. Afterward, Mo Tianyin arrived there and personally cast down an extremely powerful formation to envelope the land. He then moved all the corpses into there. Through his great abilities, he turned the land into a graveyard. During that age, saint emperors appeared more often than saint kings nowadays. Countless saint emperors of all three races had fallen, while saint kings and saint rulers reached to an even higher level. With the burial of so many experts, the region slowly underwent some gradual changes, giving birth to many vengeful spirits and death curses, before becoming the most dangerous region of the Tianyuan continent, becoming Death Nest. The sea goddess' voice was filled with melancholy. All of it had happened just far too long ago. In other words, the formation of Death Nest was all because of Senior Mo Tianyin? Jianchen felt oddly shocked inside. He felt admiration for Mo Tianyin's abilities once more. Death Nest was the most dangerous place on the Tianyuan continent. He had never thought that it had personally been constructed by Mo Tianyin. The sea goddess slowly nodded. Mo Tianyin's action of constructing the graveyard was rather odd. Although there were mountainous piles of corpses, he had no need to deal with all of them in such a fashion. He had poured quite a lot of effort into the land where Death Nest sits, and he even used a droplet of his essence blood to irrigate the land. He must have had other intentions. Was it really to plant the saint's fruit that can allow people to reach Saint Emperor? The sea goddess' voice was filled with some confusion as well. She was very puzzled by Mo Tianyin's actions. Jian Chun and He Yu both realized something from what the sea goddess had said. They shuddered and a sliver of surprise appeared in their eyes. He Yu cried out, "Does that mean the saint's fruit in Death Nest has to do with the experts who had fallen in ancient times? Have they formed the saint's fruit?" "Correct. It is a special plant formed from the blood and essence of the corpses. The reason why it's known as the saint's fruit is because it can allow people to reach Saint Emperor. Otherwise, it would have been called the demon's fruit," said the sea goddess. Jianchen was shocked. He had never thought that the saint's fruit would have origins like this. It was just unbelievable. The saint's fruit contains the essence of those saint emperors from the ancient times, as well as the truths of the world from a level of saint emperor. Saint rulers cannot digest it, so only saint kings can ingest the fruit. Over 100,000 years ago, a human saint emperor obtained the fruit and fed it to his son, who had just reached saint king. In the end, the son reached saint emperor within 100 years. However, most of the fruit has been consumed by those who have reached the great perfection of Saint King many years ago, and who have struggled to reach Saint Emperor. In the end, all of them reached Saint Emperor except for one failure, and they all managed to break through 3 to 5 smaller realms of cultivation, reaching the 3rd to the 5th heavenly layer of Saint Emperor, explained the sea goddess. She had witnessed the birth of over 20 saints' fruit, as they would appear once every 40,000 years. She had an even better understanding regarding the fruit than the ancient protector clans. There are countless vengeful spirits in Death Nest. All of them are people of the 3 races that fell in battle. Fortunately, they've been trapped by Mo Tianyin's great formation, or the entire world would be in danger if they break out, except for Mercenary City and the Sea Realm I watch over. Death Nest is divided into 3 zones. The first zone only has Saint Ruler Vengeful Spirits, while the second zone has Saint Ruler and Saint King Vengeful Spirits. They shouldn't be too much of a threat. The true danger lies in the third zone, where Saint King and Saint Emperor Vengeful Spirits exist. There is quite a lot of them, and once trapped, even Saint Emperors face the possibility of dying. There is also a powerful existence in the depths of the third zone. However, it is dormant most of the time and rarely awakens. You have to be careful and never disturb it. The saint's fruit grows in the third zone. I've said everything I need to say. Whether you go to Death Nest or not is up to you. The sea goddess figure slowly faded away. He came and left with no signs, such that no one could track her. Jian Chun and He Yu did not notice that the sea goddess had already left. They only thought about what the sea goddess had said at the end. An unbelievable existence was hidden in the depths of the third zone. Is it a peak Saint Emperor? Jian Chun pondered with a hoarse voice. He felt rather cold inside. He understood just how powerful peak Saint Emperors were inside. Fairy Hao Yu was a very good example. She could trap a group of Saint Kings with a single formation, where even He Yu could not break free. The sea goddess herself is an expert of the origin realm. Even she is described as a powerful existence. Then this vengeful spirit must be a big deal. It must have been a peak Saint Emperor before it passed away. He Yu said with a deep voice. He was stern. The difference of strength between Saint Emperors was vast, like the difference between the first heavenly layer and great perfection of Saint King. Jian Chun, are you going to Death Nest? He Yu turned to Jian Chun after a period of silence. Jian Chun silently lowered his head as he thought about Grand Elder Tianjian. Tianjian had once helped him several times, showing great kindness to him. Now that he was running out of time, it was extremely difficult for him to reach Saint Emperor just by himself in this age. I'm going. I have to go. Jian Chun's gaze became determined at that moment. He would not exist if it were not for Tianjian's assistance. I've been able to make my way up all because of Senior Tianjian's secret and selfless help. Yet, I've never done a single thing for him. If I can help him this time, is it really such a big deal that I risk my life? Jian Chun clenched his fist and became determined. I'll come with you. I'd like to see this death nest filled with vengeful spirits. Hee, I've lived for quite some years, but I've never seen something like it before, laughed He Yu. Afterward, Jian Chun entered the artifact space and found Rui Jin and Hong Lian. He told them everything the sea goddess had said, without hiding any information. I never thought that there would actually be such a divine item, like the saint's fruit, that can take from the fortunes of nature. Mo Tianyan really is skillful. Rui Jin and Hong Lian became astounded, as well once they learned about the saint's fruit. Disbelief flooded their faces. Chapter 11:10. Return to the Turtle Clan. Do you plan on taking the saint's fruit? Hong Lian stared at Jian Chun as she asked with her pleasant voice. Yes. I have to try to get my hands on the saint's fruit. I have no idea if I will come back alive. So before I do go, I will leave behind the white tiger. I'll trouble you two to look after the white tiger in the future, Jian Chun seriously replied. He had always thought that the three of them stuck by his side to protect the young winged tiger god. We'll go with you since you want to go to Death's Nest. We all have origin energy armor and weapons, so even Saint Emperors can't do anything to us. Your chances of obtaining the fruit will increase by a lot with us by your side, said Rui Jin. The vengeful spirits should be of supreme yin in nature, while my flames are supreme yang. They just happen to suppress these vengeful spirits. As long as the powerful existence mentioned by the sea goddess doesn't appear, I believe these spirits can't pose much of a threat to us. Hong Lian also expressed her thoughts. I thank the seniors for their assistance. Jian Chun immediately became overjoyed when he found out that Rui Jin and the other two were willing to go with him to Death's Nest. Without a single doubt, the whole matter would become much easier with the assistance from three experts who were on par with Saint Emperors. Jian Chun left the artifact space. Hong Lian gently sighed after he had disappeared. Jian Chun's life is even more important than our own. I'd rather be injured than see him die. Rui Jin also gently sighed with that. His face became filled with melancholy as he said, I have no relatives, friends or anyone I know in this outside world. Even my homeland has become a grave where living corpses roam. All my clansmen have disappeared without a trace. Jian Chun is our only hope to find our clansman. So before he becomes powerful enough, we can't let anything happen to him. Otherwise, we'll never be able to return to our clans. Rui Jin, do you really believe that Jian Chun will bring us to find our lost clansmen? Our people suddenly disappeared with the winged tiger god. They might not be in this world anymore. Does Jian Chun really have that ability? Hong Lian stared deeply at Rui Jin. Even if we don't believe Jian Chun has the capability, we should still believe the winged tiger god. Since the winged tiger god has said that Jianchun can lead us back to our clansmen, he must have his reasons. It's not like we have any other ideas outside of this. This is our only hope, said Ruijin. Before I go to Death's Nest, I need to visit the Sea Realm. Taita, it's best if you stay in Mercenary City during this next period of time. Your characteristics are just too eye-catching. I'm afraid that a few people knowledgeable in the matters of ancient times will recognize you, Jianchun said to Taita. He worried for him from the bottom of his heart. Taita shook his head and said, Jianchun, a lot of powerful mysteries of war have appeared in my head. I feel like they are even more powerful than Saint-tier battle skills. And I have also obtained some powerful mysteries of war comprehended by Uncle Ergens, as well as his experience. I no longer fear the Protector clans. Though I do want to do to Death's Nest with you. I want to venture the world with you. Taita was serious, his eyes were filled with a yearning. To travel the world with Jianchun. That was the wish he wanted the most. He was not strong enough, and would only drag Jianchun down before. But now he possessed the strength. So he obviously would not forego the chance. Jianchun thought about it. He knew that Taita's current prowess in battle was probably no weaker than his own. And he also considered how Taita had experienced too little due to his extreme growth. As a result, he agreed. All right then. Once I return from the Sea Realm, I'll bring you with me to Death's Nest. Taita became excited. He foolishly smiled. Then I'll go home first. Jianchun, remember to call me when you go to Death's Nest. We're very far away from Tianyuan continent. I better ask Senior Heiyu to construct a space gate for you, said Jianchun. No need, I can return by myself, Taita shrugged. He thanked Heiyu for his help before yelling. Mysteries of war, void-shattering golden body. Taita began to shine with a blinding golden light. He turned into a streak of golden light as he charged forward with lightning speed. Several hundred meters later, the space up ahead cracked open, and a black hole appeared. Taita charged through the hole and disappeared, still coated in a dense layer of golden light. What? He actually smashed through space with his body. He's moving through another region of space. Heiyu became shocked as he uncontrollably spoke his thoughts. Jianchun also became tongue-tied, unable to return to his senses even after a very long time. Taita walked a different path of cultivation. He had no need to comprehend the mysteries of the world. He could not rip open space gates, but he had other methods that achieved the same results as space gates. Space gates need to be constructed in stable space, and they can't sustain any attacks after forming, or they'll collapse. Taita's ability doesn't seem to have that limitation. He seems to be able to leave at will even when experts fight. This is much more powerful than space gates. Heiyu sighed in amazement. The abilities of the warring gods are actually so terrifying. Taita's only at the 4th heavenly layer, yet he does not fear the Protector clans anymore. Yet in ancient times, Ergens had surpassed Saint Emperor, but he was still slain by the winged tiger god. The winged tiger god really is unimaginably powerful. Jianchun emotionally sighed inside. Afterward, Jianchun made his way to the Sea Realm. Although the barrier of the Sea Realm prevented the entry of foreign saint kings, it has personally been cast down by the Sea Goddess. As a result, Jianchun did not suffer this limitation through his connection with the Sea Goddess. He was able to pass through without any obstructions. Jianchun's main purpose of going to the Sea Realm was for the divine water of the world. He had learned from the sword spirits that the water could cure Hong Lian of her backlash from the rebirth of fire. Hong Lian was slain several times by Kaiser during the battle against the 2 saint emperors of the beast god continent, and the path lord of carnal desires that had occurred above Cross Mountains. She had revived herself through the rebirth of fire, but the consequences were that her strength would drop, and she ended up at the 5th heavenly layer. Hong Lian was the arch-nemesis of the vengeful spirits within Death's Nest, so it was extremely possible that she would be the most useful out of the 3. As a result, Jianchun wanted to retrieve the water, so that Hong Lian could recover her strength and, hence, increase their chances of success. After all, he would not be facing against Saint Kings this time, but a group of Saint Emperor vengeful spirits that had been slain during an ancient war. Even if they no longer possessed their former strength, Jianchen still felt pressured by their numbers. A figure descended from the sky in a desolate mountain range within the sea realm. He stood on the highest peak as he observed his surroundings. With a flip of his hand, Jianchen pulled out a map of the sea realm from his space ring. He used the surrounding geographical features to determine his location. He was currently in the territory of the Sea Goddess Hall, only several hundred kilometers away from the Turtle Clan. Swish! Jianchen left as a blur. He hurried along with the illusory flash, swiftly moving to the Turtle Clan. We greet the ruler. As soon as Jianchen walked through the main entrance of the clan, all the guards at the front knelt down on one knee in unison. They simultaneously greeted him. Their voices were filled with respect that originated from the bottom of their hearts. Although Jianchen had disappeared for many years, his prestige within the Turtle Clan was still extremely great. Almost everyone within the clan recognized him. The return of the ruler after so many years immediately caused quite a large disturbance in the Turtle Clan. All the elders gathered in the conference hall regardless of how busy they were. Even a few elders in seclusion had come out. Just as Jianchen had returned to the Turtle Clan, a graying old man stood outside a hall within the central divine hall of the Sea Goddess Hall. He said, "Guest elder, the ruler of the Turtle Clan has returned." A female in azure clothes levitated 2 meters above the ground in the hall. She was extremely pretty and alluring, where her hair ran down her shoulders naturally, like a waterfall. It covered a portion of her face. Suddenly, the woman snapped open her eyes. An almost visible light shot from her eyes, disappearing with a flash. Her gaze was extremely bright, as if it contained stars that glimmered inside. Vaguely, it possessed an odd allure, able to enchant people. "I understand. You can leave," Qing Yishuang commanded Hin. Her voice was cold, and possessed no emotions at all. "Yes, esteemed guest elder." An old voice rang out from outside, and the old man quietly left. Soon afterward, an azure figure left the central divine hall. It moved extremely quickly, disappearing into the distance in the blink of an eye. Jianchen sat casually on the throne in the center of the hall. The various elders of the Turtle Clan formed 2 rows below him, and reported on the recent developments of the Turtle Clan one by one. "Ruler, ever since we received Elder Lan Jing, Xanpian, and Mocha's assistance, it has been smooth sailing in our attempts to retrieve our past crystal mines. We've recovered most of them, while the remaining ones are large-scale mines of excellent quality. They produce an extremely great amount of grand quality crystal coins, and they are in the possession of a few large clans. These clans are extremely powerful. Not only do they have several 15-star Sea Soul warriors, they even have 16-star experts. One of the clan's ancestors is even closing in on the peak of the 16th star. He's an elder of the Sea Goddess Hall, and there's even rumors that he will become a hall elder in the future. During the time that you were gone, we discussed with them several times for them to return to the mines that belong to us. However, we were declined every time, and a few small-scale conflicts even broke out. Elder Lan Jing, Xanpian and Mocha's were injured. The elders of the Turtle Clan had reported the truth. Lan Jing, Xanpian, and Mocha's were the 3 disciplinary elders of the Heaven Spirit Hall that had chased down Jianchen years ago. They were subdued by Jianchen, and they now worked for Jianchen. Which clan does that person who is close to becoming a hall elder belong to? Jianchen asked. He paid extremely great attention to that expert. Only Saint Kings at great perfection could take up the role of hall elders, so it meant that he was approaching great perfection soon. He's the ancestor of the Tao family. An elder replied. Chapter 11:11. The Divine Realm, the Tao Family. Jianchen murmured under his breath. A gleam of light flashed through his eyes. The Tao family was a large clan that wielded absolute power. They were very powerful. Suddenly, Jianchen seemed to sense something. He looked to the outside of the hall, and a sliver of surprise flashed through his eyes. One of the guards at the main entrance charged into the hall, as if his bottom was on fire. He fell to his knees and hurriedly yelled, "Ruler, there's a woman who claims to be a guest elder of the Sea Goddess Hall, and has charged in. We cannot stop her no matter how we try." As soon as he finished speaking, a hubbub rang out from outside. An azure-clothed female boldly stepped into the hall as several guards encircled her. A powerful presence radiated from her, preventing the surrounding guards from getting any closer to her. "How dare you act wildly in our turtle clan?" Several elders became enraged within the hall. They immediately stood up and went to stop the lady who had come in. The current turtle clan was no longer the same as the past. Not only did they have the protection of a ruler, they also had 3 16th-star experts, which lead to the Saint Ruler elders becoming much braver. "It's not a problem. Let her in." Jianchen raised his hand to calmly stop the angered elders. The elders immediately stopped and returned to their seats now that their ruler had spoken. Qing Yishuan possessed an imposing presence as she barged into the turtle clan all by herself. She made her way to the meeting hall of the clan, ignoring all the elders. She stared at Jianchen, who sat at the very top, and coldly said, "You finally decided to appear after vanishing for so long." Jianchen smiled faintly. He looked back at Qing Yishuan and said, "It's been a few years since I've last seen you, yet you still look the same, if not better. You've progressed to the 6th heavenly layer as well. Congratulations." Qing Yishuan remained neutral. "Jianchen, I haven't come to find you to talk about the old days. I already know that your turtle clan is falling out with the Tao family. I've come this time because I want to work with your turtle clan. I am willing to assist your clan with taking back those old mines." All the elders' expressions drastically changed when they heard her offer. They immediately became excited. It would become much easier to recover crystal mines in the future if another 16th-star expert joined them. Jianchen did not waver at all. He asked, "Qing Yishuan, I am very curious to know exactly what the Tao family owns that attracts you so dearly. You've actually come to find me time and time again, and you're even willing to offend many great clans this time to deal with the Tao family." Qing Yishuan slightly hesitated. Afterward, she extended a finger, and a transparent barrier immediately expanded, enveloping Jianchen and her. The barrier could cut off sound. Obviously, Qing Yishuan did not want others to hear what she was going to say. "There's no problem with me telling you if you're so curious. The Tao family is in possession of a Saint-tier battle skill for humans. It was obtained by one of their ancestors on an island outside. If we can get this Saint-tier battle skill, we can comprehend it together." Qing Yishuan hid nothing and told the truth. A Saint-tier battle skill. Jianchen's interest was immediately piqued. Saint-tier battle skills were the exact objects he needed. If the flame mercenaries wanted to become truly powerful, they needed to have Saint-tier battle skills. "I heard that the Tao family is watched over by a powerful ancestor who's almost reached the great perfection of Saint King. If we work together, we still won't be his opponent even with all the experts of the Turtle Clan," Jianchen said again. "You're talking about Tao Jingtian. His strength isn't as exaggerated as you have heard. He's only at the 8th heavenly layer right now. You have the Octoterra Divine Hall, so he can't threaten you. All you need to do is keep him busy," said Qing Yishuan. Jianchen paused for a while before making up his mind. "I didn't want to take the Tao family on as enemies originally, but they're in possession of an excellent mine that once belonged to my turtle clan. We will end up clashing with the Tao family sooner or later, but now's not the time. Qing Yishuan, if you want to get a share of the Tao family's treasures, then stay in the turtle clan. Go with Tai Do and the others to defeat the relatively weaker clans, who still have not returned our mines." Qing Yishuan hesitated slightly before saying, "All right, I agree to your conditions. However, I hope I do not have to wait for too long." Qing Yishuan temporarily stayed at the Turtle Clan, becoming one of their esteemed guests. With the addition of another powerful expert, the whole clan was in jubilation even though it was only temporary. Jianchen stayed in the Turtle Clan for a day, before leaving after handing over some matters. He headed toward one of the danger zones in the Sea Realm. The Divine Realm was an extremely well-known place in the Sea Realm. At the same time, it was also a zone of danger that could make people tremble in fear, because there were rumors that a 17th-star emperor had once vanished in there, never appearing again. At the same time, There were many 15th and 16th star experts who had disappeared as well. No one knew the exact geography of the divine realm. It was extremely ancient, with a history even lengthier than the sea realm. It had already been formed before the sea realm even existed. The divine realm contained countless rare treasures and heavenly resources. The divine water of the world that was renowned throughout the entire sea realm appeared there. It was the only place where this special type of water could form. As a result, even though the divine realm was extraordinarily dangerous, it could not stop many adventurers of the sea realm from entering. Even though they knew that entering meant death, there were still many people who wanted to try their luck under the mentality that benefits came with risk. 100 kilometers away from the divine realm stood a medium-sized city. It was named Divine City because it provided special supplies to adventurers who were about to enter the divine realm. At the same time, it was where these adventurers gathered. There were all sorts of existences in Divine City. Not only were there blue-skinned members of the sea race in human form, there were even humans from the Tianyuan continent and magical beasts from the beast god continent. All three races were common there, and they rarely looked down upon each other. There were even cases where the three races worked together to form a group of adventurers. Jianshan entered the city in tight robes, making him seem more experienced. He seemed just like an ordinary person as he mixed into the crowd. Supreme antidotal pills, a crucial need for the divine realm. They can detoxify various poisons. 10 high-quality crystal coins for 1. There aren't many left, so come buy some fast. Selling quaking thunders ranging from the 12th star to the 14th star. They can deal attacks that are equivalent from the 12th star to the 14th star. An absolute must for saving lives. There aren't many left. Various calls rang through the streets. Many different stands had been set up on both sides of the streets to sell items. There was a great variety of items present. Jianshan stopped before a stand that sold quaking thunders. All he saw were a few fist-sized black orbs on the ground, which pulsed with a powerful water-attributed energy. Jianshan picked one up to examine, understanding the secrets of it with a single glance. They were made from a special material that could store energy inside, able to deal a violent attack. They possessed the same uses as the 3 stones he had obtained from the president of the Radiant Saint Master Union before. The only difference between the two was quality. The stones could store energy from a Saint King at great perfection, while the quaking thunders, before him, could only store up to the 3rd heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. Warrior, why don't you buy a few quaking thunders? It's an absolute must whether it's for fighting enemies or saving your life. The owner of the stand began to explain the wonders and great uses of the quaking thunders. May I ask where the materials for making these quaking thunders comes from? Jianshan asked as he examined the black orbs. Ehe, it must be your first time in the Divine City to not even know this. The materials come from the divine realm. They are obtained by killing the powerful, vicious beasts that inhabit the realm, explained the owner. Jianshan then asked the prices of the quaking thunders, but they were outrageous. The quaking thunder in his hand, the one that could only deal the strike of a 3rd heavenly layer Saint Ruler, actually cost 200,000 grand quality crystal coins. Jianshan continued to stroll down the streets at ease. There were a lot of stands selling various items, that even he had no idea what they were called, or how they could be used. However, they were all extremely unique. He hoped to find materials for the azulate swords here. Jianshan ended up with disappointment in the end. He had virtually went everywhere, but he found nothing. He did come across quite a few quaking thunders for sale, however. Jianshan arrived in the center of the city and entered a large tavern. He learned about the divine realm from some adventurers who frequently ventured into it. The Turtle Clan was not in possession of many records in regards to the divine realm. They had suffered a few disasters in the past, losing many of their ancient records. This was why the amount of information they possessed was pitiful. I heard the Blue Sky adventurers entered the dangerous depths of the divine realm and returned successfully. All they lost were a few 12th star warriors. The captain of the Blue Sky adventurers is a 13th star expert. He's actually able to bring his members into the depths, where even 15th-star experts would die and return safely as well. It's a miracle. I've also heard that the group saw some divine water of the world from afar, but they were in no shape to take the extra step. As a result, they could only return helplessly. What a pity. Divine water of the world is extremely rare in the divine realm. Even 16th-star experts won't necessarily come across it when they enter the depths. The Blue Sky Adventurers are just too lucky. The Blue Sky Adventurers has now become an unapproachable existence in the city. I heard that many powerful adventurers want to pull the group to their side, so they can learn where the water is located. I heard that the Blue Sky Adventurers has already recruited 2 13th-star experts, and are ready to enter the depths once more. They want to retrieve the water. The adventurers in the tavern discussed the recent news with one another, and all of them talked about the Blue Sky Adventurers. At this moment, a group of people in tight robes entered the tavern. The discussions immediately quietened down with their arrival. Look, they're the Blue Sky Adventurers. The Blue Sky Adventurers have actually appeared here. Do they really plan on entering the depths again? The people in the tavern discussed their arrival under their breaths. Chapter 11-12. The Blue Sky Adventurers. Jin Shen heard their muffled discussions loud and clear since he sat nearby. He looked up at the group of people who had entered the tavern. There were 10 people in total, and they all wore tight robes, appearing extremely experienced. The person at the very front was a large man with big eyes and thick eyebrows, as well as a full beard. 2 old men with peppered hair followed behind him. They were old, but their eyes shined with vigor. All 3 of them were saint rulers, 13th-star experts in the sea realm. The 7 people that followed behind them were all 12th-star experts, at the 6th cycle of Heaven Saint Master. The one at the very front is the captain of the Blue Sky Adventurers. They only have 9 people in their group, yet 2 unknown old men have appeared. Are the rumors true? Has the Blue Sky Adventurers really recruited 2 13th-star experts, and are preparing to enter the depths of the divine realm again? Someone wondered below their breath. The Blue Sky Adventurers are actually all humans. Only one of the old men is a magical beast, Jian Shen mumbled inside. He could see through the group with a single glance. Another group of people walked in from outside. They all wore blue armor, and all seemed rather impressive. They bore a shiny purple badge on their chests, and a single word had been sewn onto it in the language of the sea race, Lanshan. It's actually the people from the Lanshan clan. The Lanshan clan is one of the 3 great clans within the city. Have they come here because of the divine water of the world? The person at the front is the first young master, Lan Mo. His constitution was improved by heavenly resources when he was young, so his talent is extremely outstanding. He's reached the 13th star in just over 300 years. The group of people immediately made their way to the Blue Sky Adventurers. The first young master, Lan Mo, stared haughtily at the captain and said, "Zhou Chuyan, our Lanshan clan wants to enter the depths of the divine realm this time. You should work with us. We can enter the divine realm together, and you can take 40% of everything we obtain. The rest will belong to us." The young master of the Lanshan clan is going too far. He's intentionally trying to pull the Blue Sky Adventurers to his side, so that they could lead them to where the divine water of the world is. But they're only going to give up 40%. This is unreasonable. Too bad. Who let the Lanshan clan become too powerful? They control a whole third of the city, and the patriarch of their clan is a 14th star expert. There's not a lot of people in the city who are willing to offend them. It's rumored that the clan also has an ancestor who is over 4,000 years old. He's a 15th star expert, and has already traveled outside for several decades. I wonder if that's true or not. A few people softly gossiped in the tavern. Some of them were dissatisfied with what the first young master of the Lanshan clan wanted to do, while others sighed over the power of the Lanshan clan. Anger appeared in the captain's eyes, but he hid it very quickly. He stood up and clasped his hands to Lan Mo. He said, "It is a blessing for my Blue Sky Adventurers that young Master Lan Mo has set his eyes on us. However, we have always moved independently, so I can only appreciate your kindness and turn down your offer." "Zhou Chuyan, I have never invited a group of adventurers before. You are the first. But I never thought you'd actually turn down my kindness. Are you looking down on me? Lan Mo's voice became icy. Zhou Chuyan remained smiling. Young Master Lan Mo has misunderstood. I have no intentions of looking down on you. We are just used to moving independently. An armored guard walked up from behind Lan Mo. He said sharply to Zhou Chuyan. It's a blessing for you that young Master Lan Mo has invited you. So don't make the wrong choice. You must join us, or you won't be able to leave this tavern today. The atmosphere of the tavern immediately became nervous because of what the guard said. The people there stopped what they were doing and turned to Lan Mo and the Blue Sky Adventurers. The members of the Blue Sky Adventurers all paled. Only the two old men remained composed, as if nothing had happened at all. Zhou Qian's face also sank. Since the situation had already developed to such a point, he would only appear docile if he continued to let them get their way. He coldly said, Young Master Lan Mo, my group may be far weaker than your clan, but we do not fear you. If you want to do things forcefully, we can try it out, and see just who won't be leaving the tavern today. The young master coldly sneered as he gazed past the two old men. He said, Zhou Chuyan, do you really think that you can go up against my clan now that you've recruited two 13th star experts? You overestimate yourself. At the very least, your clan cannot do anything to us before your ancestor returns. Though your ancestor seems to have been gone for several decades already, Zhou Chuyan also became unyielding. He felt no fear. Lan Mo's face sank and killing intent flickered in his eyes. As the first young master of one of the three great clans in the city, his status was extremely great. He had never been treated so rudely by a mere group of adventurers. He did not worry, even though they possessed 13th star experts. The young master coldly glanced over Zhou Chuyan and the two old men. Just as he was about to say something, mocking laughter rang in from outside. I never thought that the renowned young Master Lan Mo would bully a group of adventurers. Unbelievable. Though the Blue Sky Adventurers isn't any small group of adventurers. They're not in existence that you can bully. A white-robed young man, who seemed to be in his 20s, walked in from outside. He gave Lan Mo a look filled with ridicule as a few middle-aged men followed him. Each and every one of them radiated with a bold presence. And who did I think it was? So it's the first young master of the Karunk clan, Kuda? Lan Mo sneered. The Karunk clan possessed a similar status in the Divine City as his Lanshang clan. They too were one of the three great clans. Kuda paid no attention to Lan Mo. He arrived at Zhou Chuyan's side and clasped his hands. Captain Zhou Chuyan, my Karunk clan currently is allied with the Xie clan. We are about to venture into the depths of the divine realm again. We sincerely invite Captain Zhou Chuyan to join us. I just knew that your Karunk clan had come with similar intentions as me. Whatever. I'll sit here and watch how you pull the Blue Sky Adventurers to your side. Though I've heard that the large clans from Diork City have already set off for the divine realm, for the divine water of the world as well, sneered Lan Mo afterward. He looked around the tavern and found that all the tables had been taken. Young master, allow me to find you a spot. A guard behind young master Lan Mo stepped forward. He looked around with his sharp gaze, and in the end, his gaze landed on Jian Shen, who sat by himself. Afterward, he walked to the table and loomed over Jian Shen. Brat, this table is being used by young master Lan Mo. Leave immediately. Don't waste the young master's time. All the people in the tavern sat in groups, and they were all burly, radiating with powerful presences. Only Jian Shen seemed extremely ordinary, and he seemed relatively slender in the eyes of the guard. As a result, he seemed like the person that was easiest to abuse. Young Master Lan Mo sure is haughty to forcefully take my spot. It's been quite a while since this has last happened. You must be sick of living, Jian Shen said without even raising his head. He dismissed Lan Mo's group of people as if they were nothing. All the people in the tavern became shocked by what Jian Shen had said. Lan Mo was the first young master of the Lanshang clan, one of the three great clans in Divine City. He was illustrious in status, and also a 13th star expert. There was actually someone who described him as sick of living, to everyone's disbelief. Virtually at the same time, everyone in the tavern looked at Jian Shen. However, they found him to be extremely ordinary no matter how they observed him. He did not seem like a powerful expert at all. Who is he to speak to young Master Lan Mo like that? He can't be a peak-level expert who keeps a low profile, right? That person's dead for sure for insulting young Master Lan Mo. I'm confident that he won't be able to make his way out of here. Similar thoughts cropped up in many people's heads. Lan Mo's face sank. The guard immediately bellowed out. How dare you speak to the young master like that? Looks like you're the one sick of living. Blue light flickered in the guard's hand, and a trident appeared out of nowhere. He stabbed at Jianchen mercilessly. Jianchen sat there calmly, without even raising his head. He gently waved his right hand, and the metal fork in his hand shot out as a streak of silver. It passed through the spot between the guard's eyebrows with unbelievable speed. Spurt. Blood gushed out from the wound in the guard's forehead. The fork had completely disappeared into his head, and he collapsed without even making a sound. The people in the tavern immediately broke out into an uproar. At that moment, countless people loudly gasped. There were many people who did not think that the young man sitting there was an expert keeping a low profile. An expert who was even brave enough to kill Lan Mo's guards. How did that guard die? I actually didn't see what happened at all. What did he use to kill the guard? Many people mumbled inside. They had not seen when Jianchen had struck out, nor did they see what Jianchen had used to kill the guard. Lan Mo obviously became stunned. He had never thought that there would be someone in the city who would be bold enough to kill his guard in front of him. This had never occurred before. But his face became filled with heavy killing intent. He coldly said, "Brat, how dare you kill my guard?" Chapter 11:13. King Juba. So what if he was killed? He completely deserved it for attacking me, Jianchen said with an extremely indifferent tone. You. Lan Mo pointed at Jianchen as he became speechless with anger. In so many years, there had never been someone who dared to act so arrogantly in front of him. Even the first young masters of the other two clans had never acted so mercilessly. How dare you? A guard bellowed from behind Lan Mo. Another 6 people rushed forward at the same time, attacking Jianchen with their own weapons. The 6 of them were all at the peak of Heaven Saint Master, much stronger than the guard before. Jianchen flicked a finger, and 6 strands of sword chi shot out from the tip of his finger. Before they could even approach Jianchen's table, their foreheads exploded, and they collapsed in their own blood. In the blink of an eye, 7 guards had been killed by Jianchen. This deeply shocked everyone in the tavern. Jianchen did not worry about celestial decay, since that only punished people who conducted massacres, like fiends who killed hundreds of thousands, or even millions of people. It was to prevent people at Saint Ruler and beyond from recklessly fighting in packed cities, which would lead to mass destruction. He did not have to worry about just killing a few people. Lan Mo had become stunned by Jianchen's vicious methods, and even the people of the Karunk clan and the Blue Sky adventurers were the same. This was the first time someone had ever dared to kill Lan Mo's guards in the city, right in front of him. Who is that person? Not only does he look down on Lan Mo, he has even killed several guards at the peak of the 12th star with a single flick of his finger. He must be terrifyingly powerful, at least at the 13th star, maybe even the 14th star. Kuda contemplated inside as he became a little fearful. Ha 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 ha, what courage! You have my admiration. May I inquire your name? Zhou Chuyan clasped his hands to Jianchen from a table to the side. He was extremely bold. Yang Yutian. Jianchen replied. Esteemed warrior Yang Yutian, you must be interested in visiting the divine realm, since you have appeared in this city. I was wondering if you would like to come with us. The Blue Sky adventurers may not be very powerful, but we still have 3 13th star experts. If we face any danger, there will be a better chance of surviving. Zhou Chuyan intentionally tried to pull Jianchen to his side. He would be of great help. Lan Mo paled in anger. Zhou Chuyan actually attempted to pull the murderer of his guards without any fear of the consequences. Clearly, he was going up against the Lanshang clan. Jianchen hesitated. He did not agree immediately and instead asked, Zhou Chuyan, may I ask how much you know about the divine realm? I've been here for more than 200 years. I've entered the divine realm countless times. Although I can't claim I know the place like the back of my hand, I can say there are very few people who can rival my understanding in this city. Zhou Qian was rather confident. He was indeed one of the more experienced people in regards to the divine realm. All right, I'll enter the divine realm with you, Jianchen agreed. He had very shallow understanding of the divine realm, and just happened to be in need of an experienced guide. Although he was very confident in his own strength, he needed to be cautious in the divine realm, where even saint emperors had died. At the same time, the locations where the divine water of the world would appear was not fixed. It would be very difficult to find, and even many 16th star experts could return empty-handed. Zhou Qian, let's see what happens next. My Lanshang clan will definitely not let the matter end here. Lan Mo threw out a threat before leaving. He could not tell Jianchen's exact strength, so he dared not charge up and begin fighting. The people of the Kurunk clan also left. Now that the Blue Sky adventurers possessed at least 4 13th star experts, where one of them was extremely likely to be at the 14th star, they were powerful enough that even the Kurunk clan needed to treat them with importance. They needed to think through everything before acting. Captain Zhou Qian, now that there's an extra person in the group, how will we split the loot? The human old man who had been recruited by Zhou Qian asked. He did not view Jianchen with any importance. Zhou Qian chuckled. Of course, by the old rules, whoever does more will get more, so anyone has the chance at getting the most. However, you too also understand that the depths of the divine realm are filled with dangers. Even 15th and 16th star experts can die, so it's obviously best if we can grow as powerful as we can. That way, there will be a much better chance of staying alive. The magical beast who had been recruited earlier glanced at Jianchen. He said, "It really is as easy as crushing a piece of tofu for saint rulers to kill heaven saint masters. It's nothing, though the depths of the divine realm aren't as peaceful as the outside world. It's extremely dangerous there. If someone makes a mistake, they can drag everyone down. Brat, keep it down low once you enter the depths. Don't be too self-righteous." Jianchen's gaze grew cold after hearing what the magical beast had said. He coldly replied, "I may not purposefully aim to aggravate people myself, but I don't mind killing again if someone dares to provoke me." With that, the magical beast's face froze. He knew that Jianchen was talking to him. What he said before was indeed scornful, and possessed the intention of provoking him. At this moment, a great energy pulsed. A huge, pitch-black octopus descended from the sky. It slammed into the streets with its 100-meter-long body, causing the whole place to violently shake. Its tentacles were all several hundred meters long, and they danced wildly in the air. It seemed like a demon brandishing its fangs. It's the master of the bottomless abyss, King Juba. He's never appeared in Divine City, right? So why has he suddenly come? King Juba's reached the peak of the 14th star long ago, and he's only a step away from the 15th star. It's said that he has been in seclusion for 100 years ago. He has suddenly appeared now, so has he already broken through and reached the 15th star? It's said that King Juba can only assume a human form after he reaches the 15th star due to natural limitations. He's still in his original form, so he hasn't reached the 15th star by the looks of things. Don't tell me he's come for the divine water of the world as well, that he wants to obtain the water that's appeared in the depths of the divine realm, and reach the 15th star using it. The people in the streets immediately broke into a hubbub with the octopus arrival. Although he was only at the peak of the 14th star, he was one of the few experts in the region. He was extremely well known, and even the patriarchs of the 3 great clans needed to show him some respect. "Who is the captain of the Blue Sky Adventurers? Step forward for me." A heavy voice boomed out. It was deafening, and it throughout the city. Juba seemed like he was looking for someone in the city, but he just happened to land outside the tavern Zhou Qian was in. All the people of the Blue Sky Adventurers changed in expression. Juba was someone who held supreme power in the region. He was extremely powerful. Barely anyone at the same level at him who could rival him. Only 15-star experts could keep him at bay. Zhou Qian reluctantly stepped forward. He said, I am Zhou Chuyan. May I ask if there is anything you want from me? Take me to the depths of the divine realm to find the divine water of the world you've discovered. Zhu Ba's voice boomed out. Afterward, he smashed through the roof of the tavern. A thick black tentacle fell down from the sky, quickly shooting toward Zhou Chuyan. King Zhu Ba, what are you trying to do? Zhou Chuyan cried out. Saint force surged from his body as he quickly dodged. However, the tentacle was extremely agile. It closely followed Zhou Chuyan before wrapping tightly around his waist. The powerful grip almost snapped Zhou Chuyan's back. Zhou Chuyan roared and forcefully swung at the tentacle with his saint weapon. However, he failed to even scratch the tentacle. Father, the only female in the Blue Sky Adventurers involuntarily called out. She was panicking. At the same time, the two experts recruited by Zhou Chuyan began to move. A 5-meter-long spear appeared in the hands of the old man from the sea race. He stabbed at the thick tentacle with lightning-like speed. The magical beast's hands instantly turned into a pair of huge, terrifying claws. The sharp claws flickered with a cold light as he viciously swung them at the tentacle. The two of them were rather powerful, both at the 4th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. Their attacks were both at full power, something that could not be underestimated. However, when the spear and claws struck the giant tentacle, they failed to harm it at all. The toughness of Zhu Ba's body was just stunning. Even you two shrimps want to harm me? You overestimate yourselves. Zhu Ba's voice was filled with scorn. He did not even have the interest in fighting back. He started pulling his tentacle back through the roof, with Zhou Chuyan in its grasp. At this moment, Jian Shen suddenly raised his right hand. A thick sword chi of azure and violet shot out, turning into a streak of light. It struck the tentacle at the speed of lightning. Spurt. Blood immediately rained down on the tavern. The tentacle that had not even been scratched by 4th heavenly layer Saint Rulers was easily severed by a single sword chi. Zhou Chuyan broke free from the tentacle's grasp, staring at Jian Shen in disbelief. Arg! Zhu Ba shrieked in agony. A powerful killing intent began to surge, enveloping the entire city. He furiously said, I'll make you die right here and now for injuring me. Zhu Ba had a total of 18 huge tentacles. The remaining 17 immediately fell from the sky, viciously striking at tavern. Every single tentacle was extremely huge. If they all fell down at the same time, everyone in the tavern would die except for the Saint Rulers. Jian Shen's gaze was cold. Although he was in the tavern, he understood the situation outside extremely well. He shot 17 sword chi with similar hues into the sky, severing the 17 other tentacles. Blood fell down like rain from a thunderstorm, dyeing the entire street red. Zhu Ba was in agony after his 18 tentacles had been severed. He was like a limbless person now, suffering miserable consequences. Deep fear pervaded Zhu Ba's heart. He knew he had provoked someone he could not afford to provoke. His tentacles had never been chopped off even in battle against people at the same level of cultivation. Yet the person just now had severed all of them with ease. This was what terrified him. 15th star. It must be a 15th star expert. What a terrifying sword chi. Zhu Ba shivered inside. He was completely overwhelmed by fear, and no longer dared to stay a single moment longer. He immediately shot into the sky, leaving Divine City. All he left behind were 18 huge tentacles, which rested on a large group of stands, and streets filled with blood. Chapter 11:14. Entering the divine realm, the entire street fell into a deathly silence. Everyone stared at the Zhu Ba's 18 tentacles with wide eyes as their hearts churned. In the region of the Divine City, Zhu Ba was a well-renowned expert. He was known to be invincible within his own level of cultivation, and had never suffered a defeat. Only the ancestors of the 3 great clans, who had not appeared for over 100 years, could keep him at bay. Yet someone had actually easily severed his 18 tentacles in Divine City, such that he could not even fight back. Everyone struggled to believe this outcome. Are my eyes wrong? Someone's actually chased away King Zhu Ba, forcing him to leave behind his 18 tentacles to flee. He didn't even throw down a threat. Just who is this expert? Even the renowned King Zhu Ba isn't his opponent. Isn't that person's strength a little too terrifying? The person who severed the 18 tentacles must be a 15th-star expert. Only 15th-star experts have the power to do something like that in the world. An esteemed 15th-star expert has come to our city. The people in the streets only returned to their senses after quite a long time. An uproar immediately erupted, and many people became emotional. 15th-star experts were not common in the sea realm, since most of them would be in seclusion. Rarely would they ever come outside. The tavern remained silent. Everyone stared at Jian Chun, who sat by himself, in fright along with some unconcealable fear and respect. The two experts that had been recruited by the Blue Sky adventurers both became rather pale. When Jian Chun had first joined them, the two of them had spoken in a fashion where they victimized Jian Chun. Now that Jian Chun had displayed his supreme strength, they immediately became utterly frightened. The magical beast, who had gone out of his way to provoke Jian Chun, was affected in particular. He was filled with regret. If he had known that Jian Chun was this strong, he would have never said anything like that before, even if he was 100 times bolder. The magical beast hesitated slightly before reluctantly arriving by Jian Chun's side with unease. He said in a deep voice, "Esteemed Senior Yang Yutian, I'd like to take back what I said before and apologize to you. I hope you can be the bigger man, and forgive my rudeness from before." The magical beast was filled with sincerity. His apology came from the bottom of his heart. He understood the consequences of offending a 15th-star expert very well. Jian Chun glanced at him. "You sure are smart. I just wanted to deal with you properly before. Yet you've come to apologize yourself. Whatever. Since you knew what to do, just punish yourself by slapping your face, and then leave immediately. I'll let you off with that. I thank Senior Yang Yutian's kindness." The magical beast felt like he had just been granted a pardon. He politely bowed to Jian Chun before decisively slapping his mouth several times. Afterward he left quickly. Zhou Chuyan walked over and wryly smiled. "I never thought that you'd be a 15th-star expert. I was ignorant before, failing to recognize you as someone great. Please forgive me." "Oi, Yang Yutian, are you really at the 15th star? Can you tell me how you cultivated? How many years have you cultivated? And what level have you reached now? I sure do envy you. The 15th star is a Saint King." The only female of the Blue Sky adventurers walked over. She stared at Jian Chun with glowing eyes as admiration crossed her face. She seemed to be in her 20s. She was full of life, and was cute with her large eyes. Although her appearance could not be described as alluring, she was still a rare beauty. "Linner, do not be rude." Zhou Chuyan glared at the woman before smiling at Jian Chun. "Sir, this is my daughter Zhou Lin. She's still young, so she's a silly girl. I hope sir can avoid taking offense." "No problem. Captain Zhou Chuyan, let's head to the Divine Realm as soon as possible," said Jian Chun. Afterward, Zhou Chuyan brought the members of his group with Jian Chun and left. They directly traveled to the Divine Realm, though there were only 10 of them now instead of the 11 from before. The news that Zhu Ba's 18 tentacles had been severed by a 15th-star expert rang through the city after they had left. The news caused a huge uproar, and the 3 great clans obviously heard about it as well. Lan Mo became rather pale in the Lanshang clan. He mumbled, "I never thought he was actually a 15th-star expert. Fortunately, I held back in the tavern, or I probably wouldn't have been able to make it back to the clan safely. Only our ancestor who's disappeared for several decades can deal with an expert like that." However, an icy gaze flashed through Lan Mo's eyes. He coldly said, "The large clans of Diork City have also received news of the divine water of the world. They've already sent experts over. You aren't the only 15th-star expert." The Divine Realm was a region filled with danger. Not only was it dangerous because of the feral beasts present, there was also dangerous aspects of nature. They were oddly powerful. Even saint rulers needed to avoid them. Jian Chun had already entered the Divine Realm with the Blue Sky adventurers. They traveled through a desolate region on ground. A mysterious force pervaded the area, suppressing Jian Chun's presence. He could only expand it to less than 1,000 meters, within the range of his vision. Even flying was suppressed. Once his feet reached 3 meters above the ground, he would be pressed down by a mysterious but powerful force. Jianchen could not resist it either, even with his strength. They walked as they talked. Jianchen also learned the name of the other human saint ruler that had been recruited. He was called Lu Jun. Along the way, they came across a few ignorant beasts. They were not powerful, so they were all dealt with by Zhou Lin and the Heaven Saint Masters. Suddenly an odd beast's roar rang out. 3 crab-like feral beasts appeared before everyone. They were all 10 meters wide and possessed long tails. Their shells all possessed a 5-meter-long spike as they scurried over horizontally. They're 12-star feral beasts. This is where our job starts. Zhou Lin happily called out. The 7 other Heaven Saint Masters charged up to the 3 beasts in unison, becoming embroiled in a great battle soon. Zhou Chuyan gently sighed as he watched the 8 people fight the 3 beasts. We were originally disciples of a medium-sized sect beyond the sea realm. Other than Zhou Lin, the 7 were elite disciples. Afterward, an enemy of our sect master came knocking and wiped out the entire sect. Everyone, over 5,000 people, was killed, including the sect master and several great elders. During that period of time, I just happened to be training on another island with the 7 of them, which was why we avoided the disaster. We came to the sea realm after that, but Zhou Lin's mother had already died in the sect. Zhou Qian's eyes became filled with pain. He could not bear to recall the past. It was filled with very painful memories. His heart would ache every time the past crossed his mind. We stayed in the sea realm for over 300 years, always training in the divine realm. We used the items we obtained here to exchange for crystal coins, so we could work hard on cultivation. After the past 300 years, I reached Saint Ruler while the others went from Earth Saint Master to the 6th cycle of Heaven Saint Master. They're now stuck at the bottleneck of Saint Ruler. My greatest wish is that once my strength reaches a certain level, I want to go take revenge for my wife. I know this is almost impossible, but I have always been working in that direction. Zhou Chuyan gazed at the horizon as determination filled his eyes. Jianchen said nothing, listening quietly to Zhou Chuyan's story. He was not moved at all since stories similar to Zhou Chuyan's had already become innumerable on the Tianyuan continent. There was no principle that those who adventured would not get hurt. At this moment, Zhou Lin and the 7 others killed off the 3 feral beasts. They returned to Zhou Chuyan's side dejected. They said, "What a pity. There are no thunderstones." Thunderstones were the material for creating quaking thunders. They appeared within the feral beasts that inhabited the divine realm, but they would not appear in every single one of them. Once filled with energy, the thunderstones would become quaking thunders. The group of them continued on, but the sky began to darken not much later. Loud, deep rumbles of thunder rang in the distance. Odd, why would there be thunder here? Does it mean it's going to rain? Jianchen stared at the sky out of curiosity. His face was filled with surprise. He was currently located below the sea. The barrier of the sea realm separated the land from the sea water above, but the place would not get any sun at all. As a result, it should have been impossible for storms to occur. Zhou Chuyan and the others immediately became solemn when they saw the weather. Zhou Chuyan growled, "Shit, the weather of the divine realm has changed again. We better find a cave quick, or even Saint Rulers will struggle to survive." Is it really that severe? Jianchen became even more surprised inside. The thunder of the divine realm is different from outside, and so is the rain. The lightning here is extremely densely packed. It's very difficult to avoid it on flat plains. And once struck by the lightning, it will injure your soul. Heaven Saint Masters will die without exception. Even Saint Rulers can only withstand a few strikes. And if struck thousands of times, even Saint Kings may die. On the other hand, the rain here is extremely corrosive. It will eat away your body, and it can ignore any defensive energy. No matter how tough the object is, it cannot withstand the corrosion of the rain, explained Zhou Chuyan. He quickly ran, wanting to pass through the plains and reach the mountains before the rain arrived. Jianchen glanced at the murky sky. He said, "We probably won't make it. It's going to rain soon." Thunder echoed in the surroundings as the deafening booms constantly rang out. The entire world was illuminated by the strikes of lightning, and lightning continued to flicker in the distance. The lightning here was much more terrifying than any other place. It would engulf a whole region of several kilometers across when it fell, sizzling every inch of the region indiscriminately. Escape would be impossible for them if the region included where they were. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.